Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the what is this called? The Halo in Review podcast series. I forgot what this was
Uh-huh.
called there for a second. I
Oh, man.
almost I almost called it the Inside TeamRespawn podcast. That's not it. That's that
That
monthly update thing I do for our Patreon supporters.
oh, okay.
Uh,
Yep. It's not that,
no,
unfortunately.
no, it's not this. This is the big one, Hosty. Halo Wars 2.
Yep, it is. This is the favorite of, I would say, of the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a good one, folks. Step on in to this podcast. It's going to have some fun facts, esports history, some history of the metas that we have in the game. Both talk about both our positives, negatives, favorite moments, stuff like that between both of us, and then talk about the wasted potential of this game. That's a spicy comment I just made, and we will get into that. You'll understand more when we get to why I say there's wasted potential with this game. And if you already know, then you know.
Yeah, I
So
feel like this is going to be a little bit longer of an episode compared to previous ones. Just a
I think, yeah.
fair warning to the viewers, but I do have to plug that there is a playlist with all of the other Halo games that have ever been released. So if you want to listen to us break down either of those games, please look forward to that.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, obviously, this is what Team Respawn's built on. This is what Breaking the Clutch is built on. Ed's channel's built on. I mean, a lot of YouTube communities thrived during the era of Halo Wars. And
Yep.
let's go through the history of Halo Wars, Hosty. When did it come out?
Halo Wars came out February 21st, or if you had the Ultimate Edition, February 17th, 2017. It was developed by 343 Industries and Creative Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
The critical reception is, well, unfortunately, mixed. Even on the Microsoft Store, I don't even believe it has over 3 stars. So IGN says it is a 7 out of 10. GameSpot says a 6 out of 10. Metacritic says 7 out of 10. So this is the lowest rated Halo game of all time.
That's shocking to me because, first
Yeah.
of all, GameSpot, I hate you now for eternity learning that review score. But I think that this. I feel like RTS games get a lower review than what they deserve because I have the opinion that the reviewer has no idea how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
And when you're reviewing a game, you're under a time crunch. So I don't feel like they have enough time to invest to understand how the meta works or how to micro or macro appropriately or just really how to enjoy the game.
Yeah. I will say too, GameSpot gave Halo Wars 1 a 6.5, and the other two gave it an 8.
Yeah,
So
that's
for
pathetic.
IGN and Metacritic, it's only 1 point down. GameSpot is about the same.
Yeah.
6 to 6.5. So they only went down by half. So I guess their average is slightly more accurate. Between the two games in the series, but I still don't agree with either. All three of these here. But
Halo Wars 2 did not have a lot of content when it launched, so
no, it did not.
maybe that's why these review scores are rather low. I know it was believe it or not, it was actually buggier when it launched than what it is now.
It was almost unplayable.
Yeah, so maybe that has something to do with it. I really don't know. But of course, I wholeheartedly disagree with these review scores.
Absolutely. I mean, this game is the game that got me back into competitive Halo. Like, I dropped off Halo 4, Halo 5. I just hated it. I was done basically with anything competitive Halo. And this game brought me back in. Past this one, I played the MCC Pro Series back in 2020 when it was online, and I do have some placement champion medals in Halo Wars 2. So I don't really have the physical medals, but tournaments. So at least early on, I was doing pretty good. I won a Eat Sleep Compete tournament, which is an old UK organization. Don't think they're a thing anymore, but I won that in first place. And then the BTC tournament, the first one they ever did, which I'll mention in a little bit when we get to esports history, won that in third.
Wonderful.
So Yeah. So just a little background, at least from where I'm coming from. You guys already know that Andrew plays this game religiously, so I do too. Just you may not see me in the videos as much because of time constraints. So
Yeah. We're
yeah,
hoping to change that as time goes on, but of course we're, you know, the way we organize Team Respawn is it's just whenever we have availability, we just play, you know. So
is it organizing though?
no, it's not really. Organized chaos is more of an appropriate term.
Absolutely, and I mean it works. So I mean I show up in videos sometimes, so it's great. So
Let's dive into these fun facts. There's a lot of good
okay,
fun facts here.
there are. I'll do first couple then. So this is the second Halo game not to release its total sold copies. Starting with Halo 5. It originally did not. I don't know if they have it officially released now, but I can tell you that Halo Wars 2 never did release it. So, cool. I guess
That's
we'll never know how many people actually own this game.
It's probably not a lot. Because I said this, I think, in Halo 4. We're in the digital era now, and a lot of, I think, game
Hmm.
sales for Halo has fallen off because, you know, this is when Halo was at really its lowest point. This is right in the middle of the
Yes.
drought in between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite. So no one was really interested in Halo at this time. MCC was still broken when Halo Wars 2 launched. So there was just nowhere for the Halo community to be in. And also, unfortunately, a lot of the Halo community does not resonate with Halo Wars. They just don't like it.
Yeah.
There's a small intersection of a community that enjoy Halo Wars. So I think Halo Wars 1 was really successful because it had a really strong marketing push. I think it had an excellent marketing campaign.
Hmm.
And it was different. It was the first entry into RTS. So I think people were curious, and Halo Wars 1 sold relatively well. And I don't think that was the same for Halo Wars 2. But
No.
I don't think
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
matters because of Game Pass now. It was included in Game Pass and it's never left the service, and I think that brings in new players all the time.
Yep. So just as a firm foundation of the earlier reviews. So this game was nominated for 15 awards, and it won zero.
Mm. That's such a shame. That's like the most Halo Wars
So
thing ever,
bad.
though.
Yeah, it is. We won nothing. So out of 15 awards, one of which was like soundtrack, which I completely understand not winning that. The game has a solid soundtrack, but there's no definition. So
Hmm.
that would make like every single track sounds like a good, video game track, but they all don't have an underlying theme
Yeah.
total like you would see in the mainline Halo series where you have like the Halo theme sometimes slipped into the background or something like that. Even
Even
Halo Wars 1 had this.
Yeah, exactly. Halo Wars 1 had that, and I still hold the firm take that Halo Wars 1 has just a slapping soundtrack.
It does.
Absolutely slaps.
So this game has 10 more unique leaders than Halo Wars 1
Yeah.
than its predecessor. So a lot more content. I mean, that was a big complaint for Halo Wars 1 is that there was only 6 leaders to play as,
Yeah.
at least from casual players. So
This
I
it's I wish that they were a little bit more creative with their leaders because they brought back Forge, they brought back Arby, and I don't know if you could kind of say they brought back Cutter because he's really is completely different, but
yeah,
and
is way different.
and even Serena, you know, is a throwback to Halo Wars 1. So there was a lot that they dove into Halo Wars 1 with these leaders. I would have preferred to see something like Tartarus or like maybe Captain Keyes or, you know, like just someone different.
Yeah. I mean, they were thinking about one point putting Master Chief in the game besides Sergeant Johnson, and then they switched him for Sergeant Johnson.
Yeah.
So anything's possible. I think switching with Johnson was a significantly better idea because Master Chief seems too cliche to make a leader. Because if he's not the most OP leader in the game, it doesn't make sense.
Right. And I think
So,
Johnson was just perfect. Bringing him back.
yeah.
Like, this is. I said in previous episodes, I don't like it when they bring people back. That's why I didn't really like the storyline of Halo 5, bringing Cortana
Hmm.
back, because it invalidates the death of those characters. That's why I hate the Star Wars sequels. But the way that they brought back Johnson for Halo Wars 2 multiplayer, which is non canon, of course,
Yeah.
is just a brilliant idea. It's the perfect way to gently come back and listen to Johnson again, even if he is a different voice actor,
Yeah.
and actually have Johnson on the field and with his max. It was just brilliant. I love that. Great touch.
Yeah, that was great. And I mean, the next point I actually was gonna say is that, they cameoed both Sergeant Johnson and the Arbiter from Halo Wars One, but both are dead already. So you know,
Hmm.
you kind of touched it up with saying that
So
it's not
so is
canonical at
Serena.
all. Yeah, she is dead. Rip. Well, as far as we know, she could have escaped. Theories. It's kind of like the theory with Noble Six in a cave.
Yeah.
So to the next point. So Halo Wars 2 did not feature any professional HCS tournaments for deathmatch. They only received one tournament for Blitz.
So bad.
It was terrible. I think there's still clips of it on Twitch.
Mm.
My goodness, it was a train wreck. Yeah, don't watch it. So unless you want to watch a train wreck. So
Do you,
I mean, you watch our gameplay, so
do you think that Halo Wars 2 would have more success if they carried on with regular deathmatch, or how do you think that would have played out?
well, I can tell you from their experience with deathmatch. So they created an unofficial, like an HCS unofficial tournament hosted by 343 using the Xbox tournament system that obviously nobody uses anymore. And the tournament itself actually crashed and they never completed the tournament. They did not say to complete it in customs. They did not say to complete it at a later date. They just didn't finish the tournament. No one got anything.
Hmm.
Yep. So that was a thing. And the tournament is now locked forever. So in their tournament system. We'll get into that later when I talk about wasted potential because um, that's a huge issue. So I would say this game, if it had a successful deathmatch scene, which it has had several times when we get into the esports history of Halo Wars 2, that this game would have been a lot more successful if it had backing. Because the main thing with an RTS game is that it is competitive. That
Hmm.
this game does push a lot of casual, which is like what Halo Wars 1 was, a lot of casual play, right? Because you had Super Turtle videos. That's where you guys started. So, or am I wrong on that?
Uh,
That's you
wait,
guys started with the Super Turtles?
Team Respawn at least?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we started in Halo Wars 1. Really, it was our Mythbuster series was our very first piece of
Okay.
content. And then we started diving into multiplayer. And it was right after I met Ed, we came up with the idea for Super Turtles.
Yeah. So, there is a casual base, but it is an RTS game. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would make sense to, you know, give the game RTS competitive elements, which it has none. The only thing they added later was Spectator. Um, so this is the first game ever to feature the Banished, the new antagonists that are going to be showing up in Halo Infinite, the Brute Boys. And what a way they started that.
I think this
That
was.
was a great introduction.
I have a lot of theories on the Banished being introduced in Halo Wars 2. And I think the one that I think is most likely to be the case was that after the catastrophe of Halo 5, 343 was taking in feedback, and I bet you they were like, no one likes the Prometheans, and this story is now in shambles after what we've done. We need to like pivot drastically to something that players are going to enjoy to fight against. And I bet
Yeah.
you they came up with the Banished, and they were like, great. Well, they're like, well, in order to do what we want to do, we're going to need a new engine. We're going to need, probably by this point, they're like, we hear there's a new Xbox coming out soon. We want to be on all these platforms. We want to be on PC, blah, blah, blah. They're like, this is going to take a long time. And I bet you someone was like the idea of, well, we could have a filler game in between these releases and let it be almost like a prequel of sorts for Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what can we bring? And then I bet you someone was like, well, Halo Wars is completely dead. And like, oh, we'll just bring back Halo Wars and, bring introduce the Banished with it. And I could be wrong about that whole spec. You know, it's all speculation, of course, but
That sounds pretty accurate, though. Let's be real here,
I wonder if
because
that was the case, and it worked out
they
great.
they had no plans for Halo Wars 2.
No, it
Um, especially after the whole release after 2009, there was no way because Ensemble went under.
hmm
So, rip.
it wasn't like this was Age of Empires or something, and people are like, begging for this thing to come back. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was StarCraft, that required a new release or whatever. This was Halo Wars. I mean, you're right. People loved it and people enjoy it, but it wasn't a competitive scene. It wasn't a very busy scene. The Halo Wars game. I mean, it had essentially been abandoned on 360, and where I mean, not a lot of people played it. Small population did, and they just randomly announced Halo Wars 2 one day, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was
No
awesome.
prelude whatsoever.
No,
I was just so blown away.
I think it was Gamescom, if I remember right, is when they announced it in 2016. I may be wrong
Yeah.
about that, but
Well, the game got delayed by a full year.
I
I
think it was
remember.
I think it was a
Not
fall of
not.
16, and it launched spring of 17, February.
It may have been 6 months. You're right. Okay. Yeah, because they had a different date
Yeah,
originally. So great little thing here. So speaking of them just dropping games out of nowhere, so this game ends on a cliffhanger without any further explanation, even after the DLC.
yeah.
What? They just kind of drop the Banished, and you see this backdrop of a bunch of banished scarabs, wraiths, all a whole bunch of vehicles, and then banshees fly in, and that's the end of the cutscene.
It's by far the worst ending of any Halo game. It's worse than Halo 2's cliffhanger ending. I wonder if this was because they knew that this story would continue, but knowing how they treat Halo Wars, they're just gonna let it be hanging for eternity. And they're gonna have to they'll just wrap this up in some sort of novel or whatever. I promise you that's what they're gonna do.
Oh yeah, do the ODST treatment
Yeah, exactly.
and wrap it up in a book and kill off all the characters.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Um, so a little thing that they had going on for Halo Wars 1, the Halo Wars 1 map 14 was remastered for custom games only by so it was for custom games only. Did not work in matchmaking. Made by Matt Jordan. So Renzi dubbed it Fort Jordan. But here's the kicker. The map breaks on consoles.
Yeah. It's
It just dies. It does not function.
he
Um,
he made this on his own as like
yeah.
a side project at work or whatever. I think like in his free time too.
Yes, he was using like his lunch breaks and free time in between um, his schedule and stuff like that. So
Yeah. You got to respect the desire and just that this even happened to begin with, but it's so unfortunate that the map rarely works. And but when it does work it's cool, but you would think that bringing back this Halo Wars 1 map and Halo Wars 2 would be pretty neat, but it for whatever reason the scale just doesn't work the way that it should.
yeah.
It's better in Halo Wars 1. But it's a nostalgia trip to play it in Halo Wars 2.
No, absolutely. Whenever the map works, it's great. So
Yeah.
yeah. So there was a one-time event that was featured between season 10 and season 11, I believe. In that era. So it was called The Yappening, where the new leader, Yap Yap, takes over all gameplay aspects for an April Fool's joke. They did it for like a week. So like you had Ice Hogs, Flame Siege, an ODST hero from Cutter. You had the Stasis, my favorite. Stasis came back every 15 seconds, which is how long the cooldown was. So, and it cost zero.
Yeah.
Zero. So you could use it infinitely, which means you could have people like Exo Kaboom, for those of you who follow competitive scene. He he turtled for like 5 hours against one guy because he just kept using stasis on his base, and then the base would heal back to full because of the heal from Conduit of Rage 3. So kind of
Amazing.
this, it was quite a fantastic feat he had there. But
They
no,
they like
it's
doubled the beams on eradication. They like tripled the amount of armed pelicans on close air support.
mhm.
I think the Mac Blast was like Halo Wars 1 style, where you could fire
Oh
like
yeah, you could
4
fire
rounds.
like 4. Yeah. They made it to where you also could not generate power
Yeah, right. So,
naturally. You had to have power nodes, right?
right. I no, I think it was that nothing cost power at all. So like even if you built generators, they would produce supplies.
Supplies, yeah. I remember that. But then they had like the Tech 2 banished base was a paper thin like thing. So once banished hit Tech 2, they were useless, but Tech 3, it had so much health it was unkillable.
Yeah. So it's designed to sound ridiculous, and it was an awesome weekend. They also made like the Locust beam shoot rainbows,
Oh
and
yeah.
I mean just the whole. I think they changed the tanks to be the ironclad tanks from Blitz.
Yep.
They just they
Hunters were the hunter captain.
yeah, and then what they like mounted a Locust beam on top of something. Um, I've now forgotten what it was.
Mhm.
But there's you can go on Waypoint at the post, and they have some like art of like what some of the ridiculous things they came up with look like.
Yeah.
And this was probably like the last great thing that 343 did for Halo Wars 2, because
Yeah.
I mean, it was just such a great idea, and it was so ridiculous, and it was exactly like what I like envisioned going completely over the top. And it was meant to be silly, and it was. And I think the biggest shame is that it never came back, because I would have loved them to have this like as a skull you could turn on to play this in custom games, or like even like once every 6 months bring it back or something like
Yeah,
automatically.
just set it on a timer, you know.
Yeah,
Um
it's a shame this never returned.
so I remember speaking specifically to Renzi about that. This is all public stuff. So um Renzi said that they have the season file saved, like the patch. So they could switch it back at any time.
Yeah,
If they would like to, back to Yappening. All they have to do is revert to the backup patch for this, and it would work. So, but it would have all the problems that that patch had, unfortunately. So that were fixed in the 2020 patch. So, you know, I think you still had 2 Rangers at that time. You didn't have 3 Rangers yet in your squad.
yeah, that's correct.
That'd be so weird going
Going
back
back,
to that.
yeah,
Yeah. And finally, this was one of the first Xbox Play Anywhere titles. So you could play, you download it on the Xbox, like you buy it for the Xbox, and then you can play it on PC too, which is what I
yeah,
actually have.
yeah. That's what I did as well. So it's so funny. This was only 4 years ago, but it feels like a completely different point in time in gaming, because
Yeah,
Game Pass wasn't even a thing when Halo Wars 2 launched. Game Pass came out, I think, a couple of months after Halo Wars 2 released.
that's
And
so long ago.
so like Xbox Play Anywhere was like the big thing. That was what everyone was talking about. That's what like all the gaming websites were reporting, because they were like, this is unheard of. You don't buy a game and then you get it on the other platform for free. And now no one cares, because it's on Game Pass on both platforms, and everyone now has
Yeah,
Game Pass. But believe it or not, Xbox Play Anywhere is still a thing for first party titles like Gears 5, or what's a newer one, Gears Tactics, or
yeah,
Psychonauts 2. You buy it digitally on Xbox, you're automatically given it on PC for free, or the other way around. And it's how it should be. And I'm glad Halo Wars 2 is one of the first titles that took advantage of this.
yeah. It was great too. I mean, this game needed a PC treatment, so
It did.
it did indeed.
Halo Wars
So,
1 had this as well, by the
yeah,
way. The remaster.
The remaster. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say like Halo Wars 1 didn't.
Yeah.
DE does. Um, so let's get into some fun stuff. We have two different history segments here. I know this is out of the norm of what we normally do. Normally, right now, would be jumping into our memories, missions, cringe, stuff like that. But it's Halo Wars 2. We have to give it as such.
Mm-hmm.
It's our bread and butter, so to say. So, um, I don't know how much you know of this stuff. I know you were there. At least we met in the HWCL. I don't know how much you kept up with the esports side of things.
Bits and pieces.
Okay. I know you have always been a more casual boy, so
Yeah. Yeah.
boy.
I don't own a pair of sweatpants.
That's fair. You should sign up for one someday and just see what happens.
I was sent some temporarily when Pyman was helping us out, but
Mhm.
I had to return those once the contract expired.
Okay, you had to return your sweatpants. I got it.
Yeah.
So, just to run through some things, as we said, Halo Wars 2 has never had a professional, so to say, competitive series. I would say they're all professional because they are for money, but besides that fact, none of them were officially sponsored by 343. They always tried to jump through legal loopholes and not legal loopholes, so to say. More of like loopholes to say that they're not sponsoring it, more of just they're helping out. Um, so we'll get into some examples of that later on. So the first tournament that was held by the community was by Breaking the Clutch in March 2017. 2 weeks after the release of Kinsano, it was a 2v2 tournament. This tournament actually featured a bunch of Halo Wars 1 pros, and they actually ended up winning first and second place of this tournament. We saw players like Velo, who's Udpu, or C-Mitch. Take Some Notes was in here. Acons, some pretty big names back from Halo Wars 1, at least for the competitive community. Following this, BTC held two more tournaments to go on with this series. They held the Summer 2v2 along with a Summer 1v1, both within a week of each other, which actually had a lot of the same players. This is where there's an old legendary match between Savior and Yoda that went on for almost 90 minutes. So that was awesome. It was Atriox versus Decimus, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't exactly remember, but it was a legendary match. It's definitely one you have to go back and watch at some point in your life. Following this, there was a fall 1v1. After this point, uh, tournaments started popping up. Like you had some tournaments from a group called Noble Team or Omega Team, as well a group showing up that was called the Banished. Did you have any tournaments before HWCL?
No, we did not. It was mostly just custom games with,
Okay.
people in the server.
So they kind of just threw you into it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think they. I don't know the reason why they did. I wonder if they were obligated because we were the biggest content
Yeah.
creator when it launched. So maybe like they're like, oh, we have to have these guys in here. But yeah, HWCL was our first indoctrination to the tournament scene.
Okay. So basically, the HWCL or the Halo Wars Championship League was a organization that was led by three different organizations with 343 staff actually being inside of it. So you had Postums and Renzi both supporting it. I feel like this is where they kind of got their debut before they did what they do now. They kind of used it, as a stepping stone, so to say. And so this ran for 4 total seasons, which each organization held the hosting of the final tournament for the season. So they kind of did it where each small tournament was played for points, and then at the very end, the last tournament was played for the good old 343 goodies. They gave out a limited edition poster signed by every single 343 member that worked on Halo Wars 2. And then it was like a 1 in 200 print poster. It was the Isabel one, if you remember that one at all.
Um, I've seen it. I forgot what it
Yeah,
looks like, but I do remember seeing it at one point. Yeah.
yeah, it's like Isabel sitting on her side or something like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a 1 in 200 poster that they printed for special occasions, quote unquote. And so that's kind of what they gave out as the prize for that. So that was I would say that is the most 343 has ever gotten involved with the community for Halo Wars 2. I mean, having a active, you know, an active play in the actual tournaments. They even casted Postums and Renzi both casted for the first tournament with Scootman.
I just wonder, like, you can just tell that like they never cared about it from the beginning. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let me back up.
Because the employees had to care, not the company. You know,
Yeah, there. I mean,
that's how I felt
to
about
be
it.
fair, I think Postums and Renzi cared for a while, but you could tell like they just suddenly stopped caring,
Yeah.
and like there was just a sudden shift of communication and support. I mean, it just went from one extreme to the other very quickly, and
Mm-hmm.
it's caused a lot of pain and problems that the game still has today, and it unfortunately will have for forever. And
Yep.
that leads me to believe that like I feel like this Halo Wars 2 project was greenlit above 343. Like, I don't know if it was Phil Spencer or maybe I think it's Matt Booty who runs all of the Xbox studios. I think someone above the decision making at 343 said, "Hey, we need another Halo game if you're going to take 5 or 6 years in between Halo
Yeah.
5 and Infinite." And because then they got Creative Assembly to do almost all of the development work, and 343 was kind of working in collaboration with that. So
Yep.
I just think from the beginning, this wasn't a priority for 343, kind of like how it was in Halo Wars 1 with Bungie didn't really care
Yep.
for Halo Wars 1.
They just gave it off to Ensemble, and Ensemble literally died because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Their company folded after the release.
Yeah, it's true.
So, no, it's crazy. So, just looking at that, I mean, we're looking at a series that had 4 total seasons, but the developers left after about the third. The fourth season, I think that was BTC did it again.
They were the only ones left, I think.
Yes, it was us. Yeah, because you guys left after
Season
you
2.
had. Yeah, you guys left after season 2, and then it was us and the Banished for season 3. And Banished left after their last tournament, and we held the last 3. Um, if I'm remembering correctly, because it ended in April of 2019, which feels like it feels like forever ago, honestly.
Yeah.
But on the other side, the community just said, "Nah, we're just gonna make our own tournaments," which had the Halo Wars Tournament Central.
Ugh.
They, I know what that sound is. They're a very questionable group of people, but they had tournaments. They're even still holding them. But they started in the summer of 2018, starting regularly hosting Halo Wars 2 tournaments for prizes that are donated from players.
Yeah.
So then Europa Halo actually jumped in for a full season back in 2019.
Uh,
They held a
so, they hate us, but it was. We, I didn't know how serious they were, by the way. So I got to tell a quick story about
okay.
Europa Halo.
Europa. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
super serious, dude. Holy cow!
Okay.
I'm ready.
So we're just chilling as we always are. Completely clueless. They join our Discord server, and it was the Discord handle Europa Halo, and was like immediately added, like try to do at everyone or something, which doesn't work. And they're like, I need to speak to like who's in charge or whatever. And so like I eventually like get the notification. I'm like, yeah, hey, what's up? And he's like, I'm gonna start the Halo Wars 2 tournament scene or whatever. And he's like, you're the biggest Halo Wars 2 content creator. Do you want to run my tournaments? And I was like, no, I don't want to run your tournaments. And then like I think I got like I'm so mean. I apologize, but like I got Ed and James, and I think even Thomas to like like kind of joke and like try to do the good old no you and be like, I want you to run my tournaments or something.
Oh my
And
god.
we like were saying our terms like Cheddarful and Kevin and Dango, and, all this stuff, and he just like was really confused, and then he left. And I forgot who he got to do their tournaments, but
He got
wasn't it like Metalizer?
yeah, Metalizer and then somebody else from the Banished. Banished at that point was just a husk of a organization. So
Because
they just kind of like siphoned the rest of the people that were still active in it. So
so like the reason why I I I wasn't trying. We were just trying to joke like how we always were, and I think
yeah.
that guy didn't understand, which is fine. But he like wanted to focus specifically in Europe, and I think he wanted Ed because of course Ed's British, and we were trying to tell him like Halo Wars 2 isn't big enough to support like a pool of talent of people in Europe. I mean, there's great European players who play Halo Wars 2, but like Halo Wars 2 player pool is so small, you don't want to automatically start separating based on the region that people play it, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like you really should do it worldwide. I mean, the game's small enough as it is, and
Yeah.
he
I
didn't like
think they
that.
learned that.
Yeah, he didn't like that answer at the time, and that's partly why he left. I was like, I'm not doing this for one region.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I mean they didn't last too long because they completely pulled out of Halo Wars 2 after that. So um as you can see, going over this, there's a lot of groups that have came out, like Omega Team, Noble Team. You have BTC, you have TeamRespawn, HWCL, HWTC, like Europa Halo. All of these guys are coming in with, great intentions, and they want to make the scene big and make it a viable game. But then they realize over time that they have to put work into it and then just leave.
yeah,
So, I mean,
I've always taken umbrage with a lot of the tournament organizations of Halo Wars 2, and I think ironically enough, the only one that does it good is the one that you're part of, Meta Plays.
yeah, which is why
It's
I'm a part of them.
right. So here's the thing: it's like the tournament people hated me, but I never hated them. I just don't like the people because they're not nice. And so like they would trash talk Team Respawn because they say, I mean they're right. They say Team Respawn's for casuals and Team Respawn's not good. And our play is
I mean,
duh,
yeah, like,
like what's your point? And they would say that we're taking more away from the game. In all actuality, I think I brought more players into Halo Wars 2 than they have. But
oh
the
no, absolutely. I mean,
so many of them have tried to like directly undermine other content creators, and then they become like an echo chamber of all of these toxic players,
yep.
and toxic people that somehow run all of these small organizations. One will pop up and in 3 months they're gone, and then within the rubbles another one will pop up and then they go away, but they all try to do the same thing and it never works. And I think part of it has to do that, like just no one can outwork some of these content creators,
Yep.
and running these tournaments takes a lot of time. That's why I stopped doing it. I mean, it would take like an entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to run this thing.
Yep. And that's the crazy part about it is because whenever, yeah, like for example with meta plays, my week starts working with meta plays on Monday and the tournament's on Saturday. So every single day I have to go around network, I have to advertise it everywhere. I have to get together with Nakamura so we can do a clean setup, make sure everything's working fine, and then keep doing this throughout the week. And then the crunch happens about 2 hours before the tournament starts. And I guess people just think it's as easy as setting up the bracket, let everyone sign up to it, and then just let the bracket do its own thing, which is incorrect completely. That's not how you
Yeah.
have a successful tournament. So, um, speaking of all these tournaments, Meta Plays debuted in summer of 2021, so a couple months ago, and it is currently the only running Halo Wars 2 circuit that is left.
Yeah.
You still have Liam hosting tournaments, though. You still have HWTC hosting, but they are not a scheduled circuit. They're
Yeah.
just kind of a tournament happens when it happens. So
I like that these people and these organizations still run tournaments because ultimately that's good for the game. It gets people
yes,
checking
yeah,
in on the game, gets people interested, saying like, oh, maybe I should play ranked and see if my skill level can come up to play. And I love all of these people making all this different content for Halo Wars 2 because that's the other thing that I never understood why these people who despise TeamRespawn like wanted us to stop. It was like, well, that ultimately hurts you as well. Same thing with the echo chamber and being toxic in the community. Like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And
yep,
the only problem I think I had when we ran HWCL was ultimately end up being like the same six people being in the top six.
yeah. I mean,
And
that's how it is now too.
yeah,
You have Almirante, Aatrox, uh, Yoda if he actually plays, and Rockgen. Rockgen being number one. So yeah, these are the best players because they a lot of times they do this. Like Almirante does this basically for a living. That
yes,
like this is all he does is he streams all day, and then when he's done streaming, he plays in tournaments. Like the
yeah,
man has the number one most winnings of any player in Halo Wars 2. Don't know the exact number because he probably knows it or something, but yeah, like he is probably one of the only players that plays this game full time. So the other guys do it and aren't able to pay bills. Unlike well, I mean Yoda can, so Yoda still does it, but he's mellowed out a lot. I have I wouldn't say a newfound respect, but he's definitely toned it down a little bit since his problems in the past. So I'll give him that. It's doing a lot better. So that wraps up the esports history.
wonderful. So let's move on into the meta history of Halo Wars 2. So the way that this worked was Halo Wars 2 launched with 6 leaders plus 4 just free DLC. And then every few months after that, for the season pass, they would introduce new leaders. And with the launch of these new leaders, they would usually have a new season with a lot of balance changes, and it would greatly change the meta. And so there's a lot of
Oh my
highlights
gosh.
in Halo Wars 2. Let's
Uh,
start with the Jackrabbit meta.
do we want to call these highlights?
The
Are
low
you sure
lights.
that these are low lights, low lights? So the Jackrabbit meta was disgusting, dude. So before the Jackrabbit was nerfed to hell, well, it's actually still really good, but in comparison to what it had, the Jackrabbit used to have two upgrades, which was the mini frag launcher, which is now what it starts with, basically, and a the other option, which is support drone. I had to think about that for a second. I can never remember the names of upgrades.
Yeah.
Um, so here's the thing: is that the Jackrabbit used to not cost any power, and so basically all you had to do was get the upgrade for mini frag launcher, and you just had a bunch of units you could spam around the map. We're talking grenade. It would take probably 2 to 3 grenades to kill one. So, and these little guys did splash damage. So
My
think
gosh.
about it hitting every single Marine in a squad doing the same damage. That thing dropped the health of it by almost like I think it was like not 60%, but like 1/3 or even close to half of a unit's health, like a Marine, when you had support drone upgrade in one shot. It was that ridiculously overpowered. And so this made a scout unit that was basically invincible, self healing. And the game was won in Tech 1. Whoever had more Jackrabbits won. Um,
Now was this
that
was this in season 1 or this was before season 1?
Yeah, this is preseason. Now, this was actually shut down for a while. This is what I wanted to mention about this section is this was shut down due to the Sentinel meta by
Mm-hmm.
Anders. So you never knew that Jackrabbits were super overpowered because they were getting destroyed by building killing Sentinels that would destroy buildings faster than Locusts
Yeah,
because of it was a weapon typing mistake where they counted Sentinels as building killers, I think, or
it
something like that.
it's hard to. I think so many people, especially today's viewers who watch Team Respawn, joined the game after a lot of these changes. So I think it's kind of hard to imagine some of these units being just brokenly OP. But the way it would work is they would like introduce something, or someone would a new leader would drop, and it would be so OP it wasn't even fair anymore. And then they would nerf it into oblivion to where no one would use it anymore, and then they would try to bring it back up a little.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah, they
kind of like,
nerfed Sentinels into oblivion, and now they're only useful Tech 3.
I mean, Sentinels. Yeah, I mean, Sentinels are trash now. But they did the Sentinel spamming so frequently, and it was just so impossible to stop when Season 1 launched. Actually,
Yeah.
Ed and I rage quit Halo Wars 2, and we went back to Halo Wars 1 for a couple of months. And we said, we're not. I said, I'm not going to play this till they patch this.
Yeah.
And they did. But I mean, that was terrible. I remember those days. It was awful.
Yeah, it was awful. It was. This is how OP it was. People would build a base, a second base, like an expansion, with your starting resources to build more Sentinels. That's how
Yeah.
OP they were.
Yeah.
So once you had the upgrade, they were basically unstoppable. They would kill anything. Moving into when Kinsano was released, Kinsano using Heated Battle with the no, it was it Heated Battle or was it Hell Charge? One of the two powers got switched. No, it was Heated Battle that you would counter it with, and you would just go around and your units would get a buff every single time they kill a unit, which was really fast. And the turret drop in teams, 3 turret drops from Kinsano would kill a base.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome because turret drop for Kinsano was originally a first point, and then they switched it with they switched it with Hell Charge actually. So she was super OP when she first came out because first minute of the game you have a turret that just destroys a base. So
I wonder if like, there's some sort of designer at Creative Assembly who's like coming up with these leader ideas, and like they intricately designed their leader power wheel, and like they just don't intend for this to happen, and they look at like heat maps or analytics and like, oh my gosh, it's being exploited in this way.
Yeah.
I wonder how many
that would
times
be-
that's happened.
Probably a couple times at least. Because the next meta we're going into is the Chopper Locust meta. So Locusts, it took the magic number I think was 7 Locusts in 10 seconds would kill any base. It was shredding. They were doing so much damage to units, so much damage to buildings that they were basically impossible to kill once you got a huge group of them. You may see that in like the older tournaments, but choppers and locusts were disgusting because what happens when you nerf jackrabbits to the ground? The next best unit is choppers, right?
Yeah.
Well, Colony just got released too when this meta was happening, and he had skitterneers, so it's kind of stupid. Skitter engineers, you could put skitters on the choppers, make them even better.
And this was season 2 and season 3, is that right?
Yes. This is also when the Banshee meta started showing up.
And that's season 4. What's the Banshee meta?
Literally, Banshees were just unkillable.
Oh, I see.
We're not talking like how Banshees are now, where they're trash. We're talking, literally unkillable. The only thing that stopped this was the Forge Hog buff from season 5.
This was incredible.
Man.
This was season 5. Forge got an accidental insane buff, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I think there's one old Super Turtle.
There's still clips of it.
Yeah, there's a Super Turtle where Ed and I went double Forge. I don't think it's on the channel now, but it's in the archives. I'll bring it back eventually. It was Forge Hog's Y ability. The Anvil round literally would destroy an army. Like, yeah. It's like an eradication.
Everything it touched died.
Yeah.
And we're not talking, oh yeah, you have like infantry level 1, infantry level 2, it survives. No. Infantry level 3, everything in the Anvil round dies immediately.
Yeah.
That's it. They're all dead.
Yeah, people would send
Anything
like a
the MP
pack
touches.
of someone would send a pack of Cyclopses fully upgraded with shock rounds. Doesn't matter. One Y ability, they're all gone.
They're all gone. No red bars remain. Everything died.
It was
So
incredible. So everyone would go forge.
oh my gosh, yeah. There were only like 6 or 7 champs that season in ranked because how bad it was. No one wanted to play for that season, so they quickly got rid of that season, made it into the next season where Jerome, it was amazing.
Yeah, this was
So
where, if I'm remembering this correctly, with Jerome's exploit, it was they would go hero first and then get the drop, and then they would immediately do the drop, and it was like an OP. It was calling down his Mantis, is what it was.
yes, the drop not only would destroy basically an entire pad, but just
Yeah.
walk up and just end someone's
Yeah.
generator
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
The actual command mantis had the same health back then as the Jerome did, not the health that he has now. So, and he had a buff of damage by a lot. So he was so stupid. Oh my gosh, Arbiter wasn't even a problem because of him. Like the
So
Arbiter and Jerome released at the same time. So
this was so out of whack, by the way. I would say the ashes or the remnants of this is still present in the game today. Did you know that when you get the upgrade for Jerome to drop the commit, because he doesn't have that Y ability, and when
yes,
he's on the field, you have to train that Y ability as an upgrade. And then once that upgrade is complete, the cooldown starts. You can't just immediately use the Y ability like every other leader in the game. So
um,
like,
so it only works. You have it partially right. So whenever you use, when you obtain the upgrade, it is usable. But whenever you build Jerome now, he has that cooldown immediately. So whenever he is built, he's on cooldown, and he has to wait to drop in a new Mantis, no
right.
matter how the cooldown was when he died. Otherwise, the cooldown, like you were saying, does not start until the Mantis dies.
Yes.
So unlike every other leader power.
But people don't really utilize Jerome's Mantis in such a way that, like, Pyman taught me quite a bit with it, was like, it's literally a free unit, so use it to go scout if you got
Yeah,
full pop and you don't want to lose anything. I mean,
yeah.
there's just a lot. Like, go bother someone's mini with it, or whatever the case is. It's a great little interesting twist on the meta with this
Yeah,
drop.
it definitely was. And then someone discovered the colony exploit, and that someone who perfected it was Mike Beaston. So
What's the
he was
colony exploit?
colony exploit is every single living barrier node in living barrier counts as a building built.
Gosh.
And so he posted a video on YouTube, which I cannot seem to find anymore. And the video was him getting devastating host on Bedrock within 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Wow.
Yes,
It's amazing.
absolutely broken. And he would actually speed up the process by destroying his own buildings and rebuilding them because back then it counted. So, why not? Just imagine Veteran C2 units all being dropped in some Tech 3 Veteran C2 units at your base at 4 minutes and 30 seconds when you just teched up to Tech 2.
Yeah.
Your base is wasted, dude.
Oh dear.
So, as many of you may know, Pavium is the worst leader in the game. He used to be the best leader until Burnout got nerfed. So, the Burnout that we know today is actually still broken. It is Burnout 2, even if you have Burnout 3 equipped. So Burnout 3 is more expensive, but it does the exact same thing as Burnout 2.
Yeah. So this is where like if you're playing as Pavium, an advanced tip is like you get Burnout 1, you get Burnout 2, you go through your leader well, whatever. Let's say you're doing a turtle where you ultimately end up getting all your points. It's
Yep.
just worth, like, when you get your final leader point, the only thing left to unlock is Burnout 3, is you just never get Burnout 3.
Yes. Never take it. It is not worth it.
It's the same size, it's the same increased rate of supplies and power. It literally only costs more.
Yep.
So
That's the only
don't do
difference.
it.
Yep. It is a pointless leader power to take, still in the game,
Now,
because it's a remnant of what we had in the past.
isn't there some sort of similar methodology when it comes to Beam 3? Isn't Beam 3 like objectively worse than Beam 2?
In ways. So Beam 3 was actually nerfed correctly. So for a player who does not micro, Beam 3 is actually better. For a player that does micro, Beam 3 is worse. So if you're playing against a casual player, it really depends. So Beam 2 lasts 2 seconds long. Well, Beam 2 lasts 2 seconds longer than Beam 3. They both appear to last the same amount of time because Beam 3 has a longer windup by that extra 2 seconds.
Gotcha.
So if you're a person who knows how to micro and they beam 3 you, if you're looking at your army, you have an extra 2 seconds to micro your units out of the way of it. Granted, it is a bigger beam, but to a higher level player, it is not worth to get beam 3 over beam 2 because it's a price increase and it's the same movement speed. It can basically do the same damage for like 100 to 200 supplies less. Because if you're against someone that's going to split, you're probably not going to kill their entire army anyway.
Yeah.
So that one, I really feel like they should edit the flavor text for it because against competitive players, it is not worth it to go beam 3. It is worth it to go something else.
It's such a shame about Pavium, by the way, because as someone who loves to play defense and Super Turtle, Pavium is like the perfect leader for us to play as. You get passive building healing. You have pretty much unbreakable for buildings in Pavium Stand, and you have a really long heal and enduring will, and you have mega turrets and full salvage to get all your money back from blowing up your bases. I mean, there's just so many great advantages on paper for Pavium. He just flat out sucks.
Yep, it's because everything looks good on paper, but because he does not have Burnout 3, he can't utilize any of it because it either costs too much, because mega turrets cost a bunch. You're getting rid of a pad that you could have put a supply pad there. Instead, you're putting a mega turret. There is several reasons, because that was the original intent, was that you're building a mega turret, but you make up for your money by using Burnout.
Right.
And that's awesome, but they never fixed it, so it didn't really work out.
And Pavium's drone heals the bases. So like there's a few games that we've done actually fairly recently where we like went over to the other side of the map. We built a base and then built a war council and then trained Pavium, but locked the base. So like when the opponents attacked the base, Pavium's drone would heal the base. And then we would start making mega turrets, and then we could hit their base.
Gosh. That was amazing.
Pavium is fun to play as, but he's bad to play as, if that makes sense. I feel like, and I'm not a professional, of course, but I feel like the best map for Pavium is Bedrock, because if you make just one or two mega turrets, you can completely protect all the nodes if you have line of sight there, and even your teammates' expo, because the mega turrets will reach. Yep. So we've had some great turtles both in 2v2 and 3v3. I think those are actually the only turtles we've ever done on Bedrock, was when we played as Pavium. There's a legendary TeamRespawn 3v3 Super Turtle on Bedrock. It was actually me, Ed, and Thomas back when Thomas still played. And all three of us went Pavium on Bedrock, and we all made mega turrets, and they could not figure out how to break the turtle. I think we turtled for 2 hours on Bedrock. It was great.
When was that? Back in the day?
Yeah, I can...
Okay.
Let me look at the original upload.
The only reason I ask is because Siege, here's something people don't know, Siege used to hit air. So it does not anymore. But if you had one ground unit, for example, your hero, underneath an army of air, if the air got hit by siege, like if the bottom unit underneath their air got hit by siege, all of your units in the air also got hit. So that's what made siege OP for so long. That was originally a thing with mega turrets, if I'm correct, and then they changed it later.
So, this game was originally uploaded September 28th, 2017.
Yeah, so it had that glitch still.
Yeah. I re-uploaded it in 2019, but it's literally the same game. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's an hour and 51 minutes. Is how long we totaled on
Yeah.
Bedrock. It was great.
So with the last leader being released was Vortis and Pavium was OP when he released. Nobody thought about Vortis, and as we all know by what we've just been talking about, that every single leader when it releases is broken. Well, Vortis is now the broken leader
Yeah.
of the two. They actually nerfed him at one point because he used to do so much damage with his goo that it would destroy your buildings. Now, Cataclysm is the only thing that hurts your buildings now, but before it used to be that just the regular goo hurt your building.
Yeah, I remember losing buildings to like an infusion wave because it would last for so long. And I think sometimes in my mindset I still like will drop an infusion wake on an opponent's
Yep.
base because I still think that, and I just forget. But yeah, you're right. It used to do a lot of base damage.
Yep. Last thing I see you have there's the rally point exploit.
Yeah, so
So that's still a thing. Yeah.
for those who don't know, you can so like they never fix this. There are let's say choppers, opponent choppers, and they're about to ram, say like your Marines or whatever. If you time it right, you can put your rally point set by holding up on the D-pad, or what is it on PC? Is it Y on PC?
I don't know. I use
I've
customs.
I forgot. No, I haven't played on PC in a minute. But whatever that button is, if you time it right, the rally point flag will block the ram of the
Yep.
scout vehicles. And I've done it
Yup.
on accident many times. I actually, in a recent video, I did it on accident. I didn't even realize until I was editing the video. I did it. So it's really easy to do.
Yeah. It just wherever your rally point is, if you just put a rally point on like right next to a unit and you have your unit stand on it, can't get rammed. It's so stupid. So so that covers the meta history of Halo Wars 2. Let's get on to our own personal opinions.
Yes, let's do that. Who do you want to go first?
I can go first. I've covered most of my stuff actually already.
Sure.
At least with like, esports history and meta history, stuff like that. So my favorite memory is gonna have to be what we mentioned earlier, esports. So organizing these tournaments, casting these tournaments, being in the background as a manager, being able to work with some pretty big names in the community like TeamRespawn or the Banished or Postum's Renzi, being able to work with them and, actually hanging out with them afterwards was really cool.
I'll
But
actually go out and say that in all of my time and all the people that I've met playing Halo Wars 2, you are really the only true professional who's like easy to get along with like seemingly everyone. When
I cry.
when you talk to like an organization or a content creator, like they'll tell you, "Oh, I don't like these people or I don't like those people," and
Yeah.
like if you go up to anyone, you're like, what about Hosty? Everyone's like, "Oh, I love Hosty." And there's a reason why like you appear with so many organizations, including us. I mean,
Mhm.
you've done stuff with BTC, and now you're with Meta Plays. I mean, who
I cry.
knows? Who knows how many people still play the game because of what you do? You
That's
know,
fair.
that's great.
Like I just work in the background for most of it. Coming into 2020, 2021, like that was the first ever times I actually did be on the front. I did the casting or I did the video work for some of the tournaments and actually coming out and talking like I do now with you guys. That's a newer first for me. So it's kind of nice to be up in the front now, but
Yeah. I think you
definitely
deserve
the
more
game.
praise and you deserve more of a
I wouldn't
spotlight.
say that. Come on now. You're killing me. Um, Nah, it's just a game that I like to play, and if Halo Infinite's the same way, I'd love to give it the same treatment. Honestly, I'll still always give Halo Wars 2 this nice passion that I give it, but I may give sprinkle a little bit of salt and pepper on Halo Infinite with BTC. So
Right.
depends on how it goes.
Um,
So
for mine, I kind of made a little bit of a list because this is my favorite game ever. So there's really not a specific favorite memory per se, but there's a lot
that's
that
fair.
really stand out. My first favorite memory is it's something it's stupid to say, but it's something I'll never forget. I There was this guy he was my best friend in high school. His name was Nick, and we ran twos about as frequently as Ed and I run twos today. This was back in
Yeah.
Halo Wars 1. We played twos in Halo Wars 1 for years and years and years and years. And we had kind of grown up and gone our separate ways in life. We remained in touch periodically, but we hardly played Halo Wars 1 anymore. And this was, I think we're actually just started TeamRespawn, and we were just doing like Mythbusters. We didn't even know Halo Wars 2 hadn't been announced at that point. We were just doing this for fun, and he texted me and he goes, Andrew. And then it was just a YouTube link, and I didn't know what it was. It said Halo Wars 2 announced trailer, and I'm like, this has got to be fake, because before Halo Wars 2 got announced, I should say, there were fake Halo Wars 2 trailers.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this, and I'm like, this is fake. And then I looked, and I'm like, wait, this is from Xbox's YouTube channel. This can't be fake. And then it showed Aatrox saying, like, run, little demons, or whatever. And I lost it. I was, like, running around the house yelling, and, like, I called him, and just screaming it of joy. And
Dude, yeah.
that was just so cool, because, I love Halo Wars 1, and I love Halo Wars 2 even more.
Yeah, that's how I was similarly. Like, I started out with a 3v3 group because I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna make a professional team for Halo Wars 2. Looking back on it, I was kind of cringe because it's an RTS game, so I should have just done solo.
Yeah.
But no, dude, it was some good memories. Like, knowing that this game was gonna be a thing, I immediately like got definitive edition when it came out and 100%ed it. I didn't even 100% Halo Wars 1.
Yeah.
And then I came into definitive edition and had it 100%ed in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
DE is great for I think for solo play. Don't get me started on the multiplayer for DE, but yeah. My favorite memory, of course, for those who know me really well, is it has to be super turtling on Sentry.
man.
This was a map that was present in the Halo Wars 2 beta, the deathmatch beta, and I'm surprised that they didn't just can the map after feedback from this, because that was probably the worst map they could have picked for a beta. Just how it's designed.
Yeah, it was basically just a Docs remake.
It is, and I love the Docs, but I love Sentry even more. I mean, I go on and on about how much I love Sentry, but it's just designed for turtling. It really is, and it's so easy to defend, but it's so much fun at the same time. And just the thrill of okay, here comes an attack. What are they going to do next? Can we survive? And how long can we survive for? And now we have this thing where it's we're going to keep playing until they quit. We're not ending this. They're ending it. And it's where you get the best of TeamRespawn, is in these Super Turtle matches, the ones that are 2, 3, 4, 5 hours long. We have videos, of any sort of length that someone wants to watch in that playlist. And that's where I want people to see our content. Of course, we make great other multiplayer stuff too, but we really shine in there, because when a game is 4 hours long or even 5 hours long, Ed and I go on tangents longer than the length of this podcast,
Yeah.
And we'll talk about anything. We'll talk about life and games and, our jobs and our personal. I mean, we go into so much detail, and I think it's another dimension of who Ed and I are, of our friendship and our dynamic when we play on Sentry.
Yeah.
And I could go on and on. It's great. What a great map Sentry is. I know everyone hates it, but I love it. It's great.
So it's like think of Avalanche from Halo 3
Yeah.
and put Husky Raid. Mix those two together in that Sentry. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a constant downhill till the center, and you have that centerpiece where you can send stuff over. Like, in case of Halo 3, you walk through the middle, or in this game, you send air over. So it's kind of great.
Yeah, but you can get a head start on it if you have that node. It's a perfect spot for the node. You can
It
get a head
is,
start.
yeah,
I wonder how many turtles would be ruined if that node wasn't there.
a lot.
Yeah, probably a lot.
Think of how many, like, that's why you couldn't turtle on docks, so to say, because of,
Yeah, people
you
would.
didn't have a node there.
Well, they would also hang out. Like if they went chair, they would hang out. I'm sorry, you don't know maybe not my Halo Wars.
Profit.
Profit.
Yeah.
Profit would hang out on the skyscrapers, and your Wolverines couldn't hit it. And he would
Yeah.
just get like an inch of line of sight, and you would do teleport at your base, and it would just go to the nearest ground point, and it would be right in front of your base. So like turtling on docks was actually pretty hard.
Yeah.
That's why I prefer Terminal Moraine for Halo Wars 1 in the center. Because you can give the minis to your teammate, so your teammate can pump units at your expo on each island.
That's fair enough.
Put 2 Spartans in the towers, and then your 3rd Spartan in the reactor.
Goodness.
And you're set on Terminal Moraine.
Disgusting.
My next one is visiting Halo Wars 2 at E3 2017. This was the first E3 they allowed the public to go to, and I mean, TeamRespawn had like 2K subs. Like no one knew who I was, but I bought.
So you saw the White Buffalo. What was it? I Know You song trailer. Did you see that one?
I wasn't at any of the press showcases. It was really like just open show floor where you could walk up and demo stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like I think like it was like day 1 and day 2 was like the press showcases, and then like the rest of the week was open floor, and it was kind of like convention style. You just walk up and get into a line and try like all this pre-release stuff, and that was when they announced the Xbox One X, so you could get to play that for the first time. So like they were showcasing like Forza Motorsport 7 on that machine. And then like right next to it, they had Crackdown 3. And then next to that, they had Halo Wars 2. And they were having an event for Awakening the Nightmare, and you could try out Terminus Firefight. And
Dude,
so
okay.
I got the very first footage ever for Terminus Firefight, and I like recorded on my phone. Like while the dude in front of me in line was playing, I just pointed my phone at his screen, But I got to talk to some of the devs, and it was really cool. And they're like, oh, they actually like wanted to take my picture. I was like, no, I want to take your picture, because they wanted like show like the rest of the team like who like people in the community were or whatever. It was so cool.
Yeah. I went to that exact same thing, but at RTX.
Okay.
Yeah. They had that same booth set up at RTX for that year, and that was cool.
They gave me all this Halo Wars 2 swag that I still have. I have like a pack of Halo Wars 2 playing cards.
I have that too, dude.
The Halo Wars 2 lanyard, like all these pins, like stickers and stuff. And I got like this really cool poster as well. So that was just really neat. Yeah,
I think that's neat.
Yeah, I like that a lot. They asked me, I wish I knew what I knew now when I went there, because they said, like, what do you want to see in the game? Like, what's your community telling you? And I remember saying, I want the disruption bomb back, or I want some way to stop combat. And I'm not sure if they listened to me or not, or if it's just purely a coincidence, because...
Please Don't Shoot Me.
Like 2 months later, Yap Yap came out with Please Don't Shoot Me. So I don't know if that was me. I don't want to be that prideful or cocky about myself, but that's a coincidence for sure.
Yeah, it's okay. You can call the Decimus the Corey experience, because that's Yoda's. Yoda's the one who made Decimus so OP. So, yep.
Wonderful.
Not OP, but you know what I mean. Yeah, he's the reason Decimus is such a good leader to play. But
Ed
It's like
always cried for deployable cover, and I said that would never happen, and then Johnson came out with bunkers. So
yeah, he did.
you never know if they're listening when they were doing development. It's
Yeah.
kind of incredible. My last two favorite memories were taking part in HWCL. That was really the first time that you would take part in something that was bigger than just what you alone were working on.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really neat when we did that first big tournament, and it was like we had like that meeting where all the orgs got together, and there was like 15 people in this call, and we were talking about like who would cast what and like what Twitch channels and what
Oh
socials,
yeah, yeah.
and there was like at one point like BTC was streaming, I think on like two Twitch channels. I was streaming, Ed was streaming, and then like all the Banished guys were streaming too, and it was kind of like almost like the Olympics for Halo, where still all these channels were
Yeah.
streaming, and there was like thousands of people that came out for that. So I really enjoyed that. It was that excitement quickly went away for me, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, that was still really really cool.
That was probably one of my favorite moments in the actual tournament organizing like casting section.
Yeah,
That little section where BTC almost had 200 viewers. You had it was either you or Banished had 100. Scooty and Postums and Renzi still had like 20 or 30. Like it was fantastic.
but
I loved it.
everyone was live at the same time. It was just so cool. And then
Yeah.
I remember we finished up casting a match, and like we were waiting on, I think it was like Postums or whatever, to finish casting their match, so
Yeah.
we could like advance the bracket, and then the next players could come in us and we could continue. And it was just, that was probably the point of where the community was most united, was
Yes.
that point. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is cool what we could all do together.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
no one
Absolutely.
worked together after that. So
Yep. I Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, some players have their signature things now and other players steer clear of it. Like Yoda is the designated person every year to have the anniversary tournament in February. He is the guy who holds it. No one else does it, and everyone steers clear of it because of that.
I would like to say, like,
Which is kind of cool.
from a tournament standpoint, it was really cool that this is when Pyman started helping us out, and he's like, you should put your spin on tournaments. And so we did that. Do you remember the TeamRespawn 1v1 plus AI?
Yes, I do.
So, like, for those who don't know, this was a tournament where, like, we got all the ones players together, like the high level players, but instead of being ones, it was twos. And, like, you would have, I think it was easy AIs maybe.
Yeah.
And then, so it was like an interesting dynamic. Like, would you go and try to take out the opposing AI, or, like, would you just let the AIs duke it out, and, like, you would just do 1v1s or something?
Yeah.
With the PvP. That was a cool tournament to be part of.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed that one.
So you and I both have the same thing listed for our favorite missions,
Yes.
which is Awakening the Nightmare, and I completely agree with you.
ATN was so awesome. I just feel like they really dialed up what made the Banished so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to play as the bad guys for the first time since Halo 2, playing as Arby. So that was nice to play as the bad guys again. I would have loved to be like, let's just do a full... I mean, it was relatively short. It was only 5 missions.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if they were like, let's just go all out and let this be like the same length as the main campaign. That was probably
I'd be down for that.
my only gripe, but yeah, I like that. ATN is excellent. Excellent
Yeah.
campaign.
People had a lot of problems when it first came out because they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not going to pay an extra $20 even after paying for the season pass and the game." And I'm like, "This has so much to offer." Adding in the new campaign missions, Terminus Firefight, 2 new leaders, like that's a pretty good value for what you're getting.
Yeah.
Each leader's like $6 or $7 a piece.
They really
So
dropped the ball on the marketing with this because the season pass was still
they
going
did.
strong. The season pass wasn't even done, and they announced Awakening the Nightmare. and they said it wasn't going to be part of the season pass. And they review bombed the game on Microsoft Store, and I think that's why it still has poor reviews to this day.
Yeah.
Because of that, and it's unfortunate because with a game with a fragile player base as Halo Wars 2, you can't make many mistakes, and that was definitely a mistake that I think turned a lot of people away, because
Yep.
people didn't understand how much content you're getting was really asinine, I think, to give away for free on top of all the other stuff they're giving away for free with the season pass.
No, you're completely right with that. I mean,
the season pass alone is worth, you get another campaign in Operation Spearbreaker, and then you got what, like additional 6 or 7 leaders,
yeah, yeah,
which are like $7 each. So like you're already like making back your money like 3 times.
Yeah.
So
it was definitely worth it, I think, in the end. So my cringe moment is ladder. I am actually going to save that for the wasted potential section. I'm not going to lie to you, because I want to put that in there. But my entire ladder experience is cringe. And
okay,
when I say ladder, I mean ones. I don't mean twos or threes. Twos is fine. Threes is fine. Ones is a completely different demon. So when it comes to the actual game and how this game works, so
yeah,
what about you?
We can circle to yours later. Mine, I put 3. One of which isn't even Halo Wars 2 related. It's the failure of Halo Wars Definitive Edition, because this was packaged alongside Halo Wars 2 Ultimate Edition, which that came with Halo Wars 2 early access 4 days early, the season pass, and Halo Wars 1 remastered. But they never put in matchmaking in Halo Wars 1 DE. It was just it was like custom games lobbies is all it was. And it's so bad, and the game was dead on arrival. Halo Wars 1 Definitive Edition is on Windows 10, Steam, and Xbox. None of them are cross-play. Even though it's cross-buy with Play Anywhere, it's not cross-play. And I just think that's a massive waste of potential. I think that really, split up the community for Halo Wars 1, but that's relatively small in the Halo Wars 2 scheme. Halo Wars 2 crashes all the time, so the cringe moment that stands out the most to me is we were playing that our longest video to date is the 5.5 hour long Super Total on Sentry. And we had started, I think, at 4 o'clock, and it was probably later than that. I think it was way after midnight, and the game crashed, and we were messaging the people we were playing against, and the guy said that he was willing to go another 3 or 4 hours.
My gosh!
So I love that that's our longest video ever, but I just wonder how long would that game have gone on for if it never crashed.
Yeah, there was actually stability issues before, I think it was sometime in 2019, where the game would stop. It was either it could not handle garbage collection after a certain time, where after, I think it was the 200-minute mark, everything past that point the game just couldn't handle. And past, your RAM just started filling up, and then once it filled up so much, your game would just crash.
Yeah, it sucks, because and to this day, crashes plague Halo Wars 2, and I wonder how many players will play the game, and the game will crash, and they'll say this sucks, and then they never play it again.
Yeah,
I bet you it's thousands at this point, and that's awful.
Yeah, thousands of people probably a month or every 2 months that are just going to drop the game, and that's a lot for this game now.
Yeah.
So let's get so I have a lot. I've already listed so many positives. I can fly through this.
Sure.
I do. I mean, all of our negatives though are pretty hit hard. At least I think. So let's get into them. So the game itself, positives. It has incredible potential RTS features. Like you have the hold position, you have the unit grouping if you actually want to use it. You have the D-pad options. All of these are, either additions or reworks of what you had in Halo Wars 1, and it made the game great. Other than that, I would say, there's more to do than just playing deathmatch. That's something you see in every Halo Wars 2 video online is just either deathmatch or tournaments or customs. There's more to do than that. You have the, of course, laddering. You could go through, get some ranks, get some wins. You could play Terminus Firefight. You could play Blitz Firefight. You could play Blitz. You could play Campaign. You could play Rumble, Strongholds. You could read the lore cards. There's so many things to do. The game has a lot of replayability because of these things that it adds. And on top of that, the game runs fantastic on PC. Like, because you have all of these control groups, all of these feelings, it feels like an actual, not just a console RTS game, it feels like a regular RTS game like StarCraft 2 or Age of Empires.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
If it didn't crash as much on PC, I think it would be really perfect on PC.
It would be, yeah. And I know a lot of competitive players actually switched to PC because it runs smoother.
Mm-hmm.
But last thing I have for positives, at least, is that the game has a great skill ceiling and skill floor to maintain a player base. So what I mean by that is that you can pick up the game and be pretty good at it just playing the tutorial. You will have a basic understanding of the game. There's a very high skill ceiling too, where you have all of these glitches, you have all of these hidden things like how combat tech marines are just as good as Wolverines, or you have that shield juggling, you have the how you can reset a turret from shooting at something, stuff like that. It raises the skill ceiling very high, so it's very easy to understand and play, unlike certain games like StarCraft where you have to play the whole campaign to understand the game, and has a very high skill ceiling, so there's a lot of improvement you can make once you understand it.
So kind of like easy to learn, hard to master.
Exactly, and that's the easiest way to get a player base, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you have? What are your best positives about the game?
I think that Halo Wars 2 is a better game overall than Halo Wars 1 from a
That's a
gameplay.
hot take.
It is a hot take, but from a, I mean, I've been going back and trying to farm some of the Halo Wars 1 Definitive Edition achievements, and Halo Wars 2 is so much faster than Halo Wars 1. I mean, building time, unit movement, the speed of leader powers, all that. I think that its increase in speed makes it more accessible because people aren't just, waiting 15 minutes to start playing. You can have a great match within 2 or 3 minutes. So I think since it's more accessible, it's a better game in gameplay terms than Halo Wars 1. There's more powers, more leaders, more units. It's very wide. It's not as deep as Halo Wars 1, whereas like, for example, the Marines had like something ridiculous, like 6 upgrades in Halo Wars 1 to get to ODST.
Oh, yeah.
But like, so like, Halo Wars 2, each unit has 1 or if generous 2 upgrades. But there's more of more unit count. You have higher population limits. You have more unique buildings, new different turrets. I mean, I think it's just better, Halo Wars 2.
Yeah.
It's an absolute blast to play, like I was saying earlier. It's just, when you get the hang of it, it is just plain old fun. I love, in the campaign of Halo Wars 2, we get to see Red Team again, and Captain Cutter again. And my goodness, Hosty, the opening of Halo Wars 2
my gosh.
hits you hard in the feels if you played Halo Wars 1. I think I said that Halo 4 was one of the very few games of the ending that made me cry. Halo Wars 2 gave me that same experience, but it was the opening of the game that made me want to cry.
It's such a good opening, dude.
It is so good. It was like, oh my goodness, are we in for a treat when this thing starts?
That really made it well.
Creative Assembly took the ending of Halo Wars 1, gently held it in their hands and the opening of Halo Wars 2 and just slowly released it and said, "We remember the legacy of Halo Wars 1, but we're going to move forward." And they did it in such an elegant way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's honestly, it's amazing how great the opening was, because the opening, it got even better when they introduced Atriox. Like,
Yeah.
so
If there's a positive and a negative to that opening, so like the positives, of course, it hits you hard in the feels if you played Halo Wars 1. And the introduction of Atriox is just absolutely slapping. But I think it went so hard with the opening, it kind of stumbles in the middle and it leaves you hanging at the end.
yeah,
And I wonder if they were to maybe drag out some of the decisions they made at the beginning of the game, would that be a more memorable story? Not to say that, I guess I will say the story is kind of forgettable. And the middle part is really flat of the campaign, but to be honest, I'm just glad it exists. Like I was
yeah,
saying earlier, we didn't need Halo Wars 2. It wasn't. I would have loved. I mean, I'm glad that Halo Wars 2 exists, but I would have been fine with just Halo Wars 1 because I didn't know any better before it got announced, right? Like, it wasn't like the ending of some great series that demanded a new entry. It didn't. We weren't deserving or entitled for Halo Wars 2. We just got it, and it was even more remarkable that it was good.
yeah.
So I'm always thankful of just the existence of this game. And I think a lot of other people are too thankful that this game exists because by and large the community is mostly positive and welcoming of new players. I think there's because of Game Pass, a lot of people are trying out this game for the first time constantly, and they're looking online at Reddit or on YouTube for guides and tutorials or questions, and or in jumping in on Discord. I mean, you're pretty active in the TR Discord, and all the time there's people asking
Oh
about
my
tips
gosh.
and
Yeah.
tricks. And I mean, you're a testament of this community of how welcoming you are of new players as well. And most of the community is too, and I like
Yeah.
that.
It's I would say it's probably 2 to 3 times a week someone's in there asking. They're like, "Hey, I'm a brand new player to this game. I need help." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
And Stormy Styles is in there too. You have there's a bunch of regulars in the server that will help you out. Like even Moses in there. Heck, he's almost a GM, like a grandmaster in StarCraft 2, and he comes in and helps new players. Like
yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I will brag and say I think Team Respawn Discord server is the most active Halo Wars 2
I
location
wouldn't even
of a community.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say that's a brag. I think that's just a fact. No, I'm being serious. It's so active compared to all the others. The only thing I see in like the BTC Discord is maybe twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Twice, 3 times a week, someone sends a message. So,
Yeah.
otherwise, besides like the staff chats where we're constantly talking. But, yeah, no, it's crazy that how active this one is compared to all the others.
And
And I,
the Discord server has doubled in size already in 2021. So it just goes to show you that to this day, the community is still active. There's still new people joining. Don't let what the toxic people are saying or people who just don't like Halo Wars 2 are saying it's a dead game. It's not. It's a fact. I'm not saying that because I'm a big fan. Halo Wars 2 is one of the most popular RTS games in the entire world. I think it's only behind Age of Empires 2 and StarCraft 2.
yeah,
I
no,
mean,
you're actually correct on that, which is really weird to think about. It is the most popular console RTS game
mm-hmm.
right now, currently, at least in terms of numbers, but it's in the top 5 of most active like not tournaments, the most active games. Because when the whole Blizzard thing was happening with StarCraft 2, people were recommending Halo Wars 2 in the StarCraft server, which honestly was insane to me. I did not expect people to say like, "Oh yeah, go play Command and Conquer" or something like that. I did not expect to see Halo Wars 2 on that list.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
It,
So Yep.
My final point, I just real quick to say, like, for those who I know, there's a lot of people who watch Team Respawn content and they don't play the game, or they're afraid to. They may just play against the AI, but don't be afraid to just dive in to multiplayer. I mean, you may get rolled for a while. I mean, everyone gets
Yeah.
rolled. Ed and I got rolled for 3 hours today. That's not even an exaggeration. It happens to everyone, but once you get the hang of it and enjoy it, and get involved in this community, you're gonna have a good time.
Yep. First and foremost, as we have obviously said, how many times and how many videos? Lack of support.
Yep.
I'm just gonna throw the spear straight into the developers here. Yeah, lack of support. This is a good game. I actually, for my first half of my semester for senior year of college, I wrote a report actually on this exact topic and used Halo Wars 2 as a reference. This game is profitable. This is a very profitable game actually. Look at StarCraft 2. They have announcer packs. Um, they have skins. They have a bunch of DLC, co-op, there's a bunch of content in that game that is marketable and they make a lot of money off of it. Now, thinking of how easy it would be to go in and create a skin pack like of just the primary colors and then selling it for like $8, $9, $10, it would take the developer maybe like a day's worth of work or something like that, and then that's it. You know, there's several things that they could do with this game. I remember someone forever, if anyone's in the subreddit for Halo Wars, there's a guy who has been begging for multi-team in different colors since the launch of the game.
Yeah.
He is legendary. And honestly, I would pay for that. I think a lot of people would. I mean, I paid for the I think it's 2 skins that are in the game.
Yeah.
So, um,
Can I go on a tangent with this point?
yes,
I feel like I'm very strongly opinion about this as well, and anyone who's active in the community agrees that the lack of support is unacceptable. For a game that's this successful and this popular, it's actually more of a testament to the community of this game that is this active with zero support. I mean,
yes,
all these other RTS games are still getting new content. Age of Empires 2 is still getting new expansion packs, and they have tournaments all the time. Same with StarCraft 2. And the fact that Halo Wars 2, from a support standpoint, is dead in the water is incredible. That the way that the state that it's in with no support, that it's this popular. And
yeah,
Halo Wars 2 has had issues in the past where the servers will go down, and it'll just say like unable to connect to servers. And most of the player base in Halo Wars 2, believe it or not, is still casual, just people who play games every now and then, or people trying the game for the first time. The first thing they're going to do when the game's not working is probably reach out to Halo support on Twitter. And what makes me so mad is Halo support sucks on Twitter, and they will not tell you that the problem has even occurred. If they do tell you the problem has occurred, it's like hours afterwards, and
yep,
then they won't even tell you that they resolved the problem. They won't even like quote the tweet that state the problem, and they won't even say like we fixed this. So
yep.
this is a
Oh, you're
broken
right.
cycle. What's going to happen is someone is going to be like, oh, my game's not working, or what, my game won't connect because it just says unable to connect. I'll reach out to Halo support on Twitter. Halo support didn't even acknowledge the problems. They're going to say, well, this game sucks, and they're going to leave and never come back. And I wonder, I
How
sound like a
many
broken.
times has that happened?
How many? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it,
No,
it.
you're completely right. That's how it works for this game, and it's really infuriating.
Yeah,
You know.
it drives me nuts. Another thing, we'll get into this later in the wasted potential, but this game needs to be on Steam. It's pathetic that it's not. Halo Wars 1 got put on Steam, but Halo Wars 2 won't. I've never understood that. I just wish this game got more support,
Yeah.
and I hope that they come back to it. They've not fully closed the door on saying Halo Wars 2 is done, but I think that they're not coming back.
So here's something: is people listening, you may not know this because you're either casual or you're very competitive. One of the two. Halo Wars 2 was supported since Season 5 by 3 devs.
Yeah, yeah.
And they weren't even full-time Halo Wars 2. They were part-time Halo Wars 2 since Season 5.
So pretty much almost like right after the launch of Awakening the Nightmare.
No, Forge. The Forge thing was the last thing.
Uh, for
The Forge buff was the last time, and then
oh, the
after the
Forge
buff,
buff. I see.
yeah, the nerf was done by 343.
I see. Okay.
Yes, the not the
I think with the
that
Forge
buff was
later, and I was
the
like, that's a launch DLC there. But no,
no, no, no,
I
no,
understand
no.
what you're saying now.
Yeah, since then, Season 5, when that was broken, this is still 2017 at this point, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from there on out until they dropped support out of nowhere, which I saw you had in your negatives. Uh, that's that that is a long time for only 3 devs to work on it, and they balanced the game for the most part. There's still holes in everything, obviously, as we see today, but if those holes are filled, it's actually a really balanced game of what we have right now. Besides like Fortis. So
Yeah, air is
it's
not OP.
Air is not OP, no matter what TeamRespawn says. So it is only OP in threes and if more than one person is building it. So, and then you have to have 2 people defending against it. And if you don't have your vehicle upgrades, or if you don't have enough units, which air can be pumped very easily, you're going to lose because those maps are very big. So it's not necessarily that air is overpowered, it is that the circumstance of which the air is being built is overpowered, and it just makes air really good in that situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, a lot of people who complain that air is OP don't even know how to counter air.
yeah, that's fair. Just build combat tech marines or go grunts and reavers or something like that, and you'll
See
be fine.
Team Marines and Nightingales.
Yes, absolutely. So balance tweaks. So there's a list of bugs, and the community made this list on a Google Doc. And we've gone to the point where this is just talking about support for most of it, but for the most part, that the community went out, talked about how to reproduce the bug, how to like how the bug happens, and even potential fixes in the comments of the doc. Like, all they have to do is just fix it.
Yeah.
The community's already completely gone through and everything, and there's actually a mod that fixes all of these, like most of these problems. So, whatever, right? The right trigger is actually broken. I saw you writing that
I'm
as I
literally
said
typing
it.
that.
Yeah. So right trigger is clunky on Xbox. It is better on PC because you can just scroll and it immediately works, but right trigger takes a little bit of time in order for it to work on a controller. That is a bug that is embedded in the game. It is a hard code fix. Now, I will say the mod community has actually found a way to fix it, according to at least what I've read. They have found like the cause of it and how it could be fixed. They haven't fixed it, obviously, but they at least know why it happens and stuff like that. That is the most broken part of the game, is right trigger. Otherwise, I think my last negative is going to be that the community is toxic sometimes. Outside of my little bubble that I stay in now in TeamRespawn, I would say it is you're on your own. That's the easiest way to say. It's a no man's land unless you're talking in like TeamRespawn, or if you're hanging out sometimes in Liam's server, it's pretty civil, but it can get out of hand sometimes. Other than that, it's kind of just no man's land. Anything goes. There are no rules. Because there's no way to ban people in Halo Wars 2. You just ban them on Xbox or you ban them in the Microsoft Store, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, lawless land.
No, I agree with all your points, really.
Yeah.
My negatives were is I hate everything about Blitz because some of the it's not Blitz itself that I take umbrage with. It's the way that it's set up, where it seems like it's pay to win, even though they give you Blitz packs out of the wazoo for doing nothing. It's only on one map. That drives me nuts, and that map is bugged. You can see movement through Fog of War on that map.
Yep.
I mean, what's even the point if I can see what you're doing? So I don't like Blitz at all. There's a lack of maps in Halo Wars 2. Like I said, there's one map in Blitz. There's one map in Terminus Firefight. The map rotation and matchmaking is okay. It doesn't suck, but it's not amazing. I would have loved to see more of a variety. We see too many maps in Halo Wars 2 where there are very huge open maps with a kind of a barren middle, and all of the action takes place right by the bases, and the teleporters are very poorly placed in Halo Wars 2, specifically on maps like Highway and Ashes. The teleporters are like right next to a base. I don't know why that's a theme in this game, but it is. I would have loved to see more incorporations that we saw in Halo Wars 1 maps. For example, on Beasley's, there was that tower with a bunch of like neutral rebels that would attack anyone, and they were like all Vet 3. And if you were to take them out and garrison a unit in the tower, you get an increase in population. Or there was a map on Halo Wars 1 that had a mega turret that you could control and fire if you took out the rebels.
Tundra, right?
Yes, Tundra.
Yeah.
There were also other maps like Release where you could release Flood onto the map as well. There's a little bit of variety in some maps. I think, honestly, the only map that does this well is Sentry with the disappearing bridge in the middle.
Yeah.
Is very similar to what we see in Terminal Moraine in Halo Wars 1, but I would have loved to see more use of the Rebels or the Forerunners with base slots. Every base slot that's not taken when you start the game in Halo Wars 2 is completely open. You can just build on it immediately. I can kind of understand from maybe a meta standpoint that you can maybe exploit that and get some veterancy or what have you. I guess it worked better in Halo Wars 1, but I would have loved to have some sort of variety of that in Halo Wars 2. Maybe not on every base slot, but maybe the minis or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair.
I think the campaign, like I said earlier, is semi-forgettable because it starts out so strong and then it leaves you hanging at the end that the middle falls flat. It's still an overall really enjoyable experience, and the supplemental campaigns are great too. Spearbreaker's awesome, and Awakening the Nightmare is fantastic. There are some areas, like you were saying earlier, that the community can be really toxic. And I encourage people to not partake in that. Just, if someone's not being a nice person, just, move on. There's other areas in Halo Wars 2 that have positive communities. TeamRespawn is one of them. I want this game to succeed, and have a long lifespan, and you can only do that with players. And you can only have players if you're welcoming to players and encourage them to enjoy this game, not push them away or tell them that they're bad just because they're not good at the game. So just be careful of who you interact with in this community. Like I will get to in a second, support inexplicably was dropped from Halo Wars 2. It doesn't make any sense. It never came to Steam. There's no support for tournaments officially. The Xbox tournament support thing sucks.
That's so bad.
There's no mod support. There's no way to do replays. That doesn't make any sense. I did like that they added Spectator. That was nice. Even though it breaks half the time, you get a black screen.
Yep.
And lastly, the negative is the cliffhanger ending. I have no idea if they're going to wrap that up in Infinite. I bet you they're going to forget, because they like to forget about Halo Wars, and it'll get wrapped up in a novel.
Yep. So I'm going to touch on actually Spectator Mode in a minute, because it's very interesting on how it actually works.
Okay.
Spectator Mode is not what you think it is. So, wasted potential, right? This is
Yes.
this is the segment. We are here. We are at the finish line of all of these games. Here we are,
We made it,
Halo Wars
everyone.
2, to the end. Last segment of the podcast until we get the supplementary things. So, wasted potential. Halo Wars 2 has a lot of that. It has a lot of that.
Yes.
Uh, I will say it again. So you actually made a petition for this to
I
get Halo Wars 2 on Steam.
I actually I didn't. I can't reveal the identity of who made this petition,
Okay,
but I
it's
I was asked to be the voice of this petition and take ownership of it. And I have. This is a change.org petition. If you want to sign it, I'll leave a link in the description. It hasn't been updated in a while, but most of the points are still valid. This was a list of things, requested updates in the community. Halo Wars 2 should be on Steam, improvements, new features. I think you could probably touch on this a little bit more than I can.
yeah.
But it was a very popular petition. Thousands of people signed it.
Yeah, no, like you're correct. Thousands of people have said that they want this game on Steam, and that's enough people to just buy the contract to get it onto Steam and then just put it on. I mean, that's free money right there.
Yeah.
You know, the next thing, all of these are basically lists. The next couple things are just things that are already in the game that they just need to add. The tournament system, it exists. It is broken. Not on Halo Wars 2 side though. That's the issue. It is broken on the Xbox side. The Xbox side has bugs in it. Otherwise, Halo Wars 2 has a fully functioning tournament system inside of it that is just waiting to be used. It works for single elimination and one map only per tournament. But it works. That's what I hate. This is something they could add into the game and do it like StarCraft 2, where every 2 or 3 hours a tournament runs, and that tournament could be ran for points for ladder.
Yeah.
This will supplement solo war. You know, uh, one's ladder gets dull very quickly. Why not just give people points for playing in small tournaments? You win the tournament, you get 25 CSR, or you win the tournament, you get 50 CSR. Maximum win for a game. It would drastically improve stuff. Then get this, it's on top of the LFG system that Xbox has. There is integrations from the LFG system from Xbox in Halo Wars 2. Meaning, if they just fill in the gap, because Microsoft and 343 are, their partner companies, basically one owns the other. They could just fill in the gap and add an in-game LFG. It is possible. The code's in the game.
I wonder. I wonder with some of these systems, by the way, if they were kind of like proof of concept, and then because with the tournament system in Halo Wars 2 being in the game, I wonder if that was like denied to be published because at the time Xbox was pushing their terrible club system, and the club
Yes.
system included the tournament stuff that sucks.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, I don't get it. I'm imagining right now getting onto Halo Wars 2, going into the matchmaking UI, and then having a specific section under ranked solo war, and it shows a timer that shows tournament starting and then you just join the queue, and you play like 3 best of ones, and then you get points afterwards. And if you don't, too bad, you don't lose any.
yeah.
That would be insane. And it would group people by MMR. It'd be so easy to make. I mean, that's a huge thing I have. Here's something for you. The map editor is real.
This is actually the first I've heard of this. Is this like similar to like a Forge mode, but for Halo Wars?
No, it's what was used to make. I presume actually, it is what was used to make 14, but it exists.
Mm.
Because obviously, if it didn't, there's no way that this map could have been made in quote unquote free time. You know, I mean, everything on Fort Dean is using existing assets.
Yeah,
You
yeah, it's
have
true.
the ramp on what's it called? The ramp on the Forerunner side is one of the ramps from Bedrock, and it was just put in. No, that centerpiece is actually from Vault.
Oh,
It
is it
is.
really?
Yeah, it's the centerpiece from Vault, and then the other side is just, you know, generated hills on the map. So it makes sense how he actually did it, I guess. But there's no way he could have made that in free time without using a map editor. Um, Now, here's what I was talking about earlier with the spectator system. Why, let's just pose this for a second. Why would an Xbox lag on a live replay versus a PC in a live match?
I don't know.
Because it's a replay. It's a buffered replay of what's going on in the match.
So it's a thing.
It's a thing. Replays are possible in Halo Wars 2 current code. They just need a button in the UI to start them.
Yeah, we need like a theater
Because
mode.
it actually someone found this too. I believe I got this info from Naka or someone else. Of course, no NDAs are involved, but this is all public information that the game saves you can get this on Waypoint. The game saves information about the game. Your match. It gets all of your information, how the match was played. So if you combine both of them, you have a replay. So theater mode is possible. It's really weird to think about, but that's why, that's the easiest way to explain why Xbox lags.
Yeah,
So
it's a shame.
it is a very big shame because it was 2 steps away. They had the spectator mode made and everything, and then just didn't save the match afterwards. They just dump it. So buffer it and dump it. So there are, I think, yeah, I hit on this a little bit earlier, but no microtransactions for deathmatch or any of the base game. It is only for Blitz.
I
How do you feel about
wish
that?
I wish that there were more skins, like how you put your point there,
Yeah,
like different kinds of camo, different kinds of colors. Like the color scheme of your teams in Halo Wars 2 is vastly different than Halo Wars 1. In Halo Wars 1, you could get like brown and white and different colors of shades of green and blue. Just some of the colors that you get in Halo Wars 2 just don't really make a whole lot of sense.
yeah,
I wish that you would have that ability or have just different toggleable options in Halo Wars 2 that's, it's cosmetic. It has no impact to gameplay. But
mhm.
like mega fans like you and me would totally buy that stuff.
Yeah. I would buy all of it. You know, just to be like, oh, okay, I'm playing against this guy. I want to look super cool, so I'm gonna play with like a green color or something like that. That's something that's easily addable into the game, profitable. If looking at your like the statistics from the petition, if 1% of the player base bought it, that would be 9,000 purchases of this item
Yeah.
of a microtransaction,
We
and I'm talking 1% of the community.
Yeah, with in regards to bringing Halo Wars 2 to Steam with that petition, there was like an estimated cost of how much it would cost to bring the game to Steam. And it was something it was millions of dollars, no doubt. But Halo Wars 1 sells really well on Steam, surprisingly. And just imagine if this just the same amount of people who bought Halo Wars 1 buys Halo Wars 2 on Steam. It would be more, by the way. The game would instantly make money within a few short weeks, if not days, after release. And then if you incorporate all these microtransactions, it's extra millions of dollars for Microsoft. And a lot of what we have in this wasted potential list is like they're just literally leaving money on the table.
Yeah, No, you're right, and no one's picking it up.
No.
It's just sitting, waiting until it all dies off. So wasted. Another wasted thing is there was no competitive support. We've touched that. The loot box for HWCL are not enough to convince people to come and play Halo Wars 2. Saying I get a 1 in 200 print poster with everyone signing it, that just sounds like a casual prize for getting a high score on Blitz Firefight or something like that. That's what it seems like it's for.
Yeah.
Um, or like getting the high score in Terminus Firefight. I feel like that's what that feels like rather than playing 6 tournaments for a season and then inexplicably just getting this, not putting,
Yeah.
like you put maybe 40 hours into this and then that's all you get. So, yes, it's a priceless item, but at the same time, you just worked your ass off. You need to get paid. So,
Their
um,
RTS games just work really well in the competitive scene.
yes, they
And
do.
even though I'm not a competitive player, I understand that this is necessary for the survival of RTS games.
Yes.
And it needs better competitive support. It just does. I mean, I will give them credit. They tried with HWCL.
Mhm.
And I wish that this was extended into Halo Grassroots. Like you would have some sort of tournament support via Halo Grassroots for Halo Wars 2.
Oh my gosh,
That
please.
that would have been incredible. You would have grassroots partners for Halo Wars 2. It would be like a wish that I would have for this game. But yeah, I agree. There's it's pathetic on the competitive support for this.
Yeah. And I will say for grassroots, BTC applied for it. Nick and Pat both individually signed up for it. I individually signed up for it. Nobody got anything. So Halo Wars 2 players are signing up for grassroots. It's just nobody's getting asked. And then you have people leaving grassroots after like 2 or 3 months, and that's it. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
like UGC dumped in and out, and that was the end. They were the ones who did the St. Louis tournament. Back in, gosh, I don't even remember when that was. It was a couple of years ago, though. Yeah, for the most part, it needs some sort of support. The Flood and Forerunner factions are, as we know, in the game. They just need finalized like leader powers to make it
Mm-hmm.
useful.
Yeah.
Like,
You can kind of understand from a design standpoint
yeah,
how difficult this would be to have a playable Forerunner faction. Granted, you're kind of halfway there with Anders,
hmm
with all
hmm
of her Forerunner stuff that she has, but to even just add the Flood is a totally another dynamic. You kind of can see this in the shooters with Halo 5. They have the sandbox is like insanely huge that it's like half the stuff in the Halo 5 sandbox is useless. They have
yep,
3 entire weapon sets with Covenant, UNSC, and Forerunner. So I wonder if they would run into this problem with Halo Wars 2, adding these new factions. I'm actually not that bothered that these aren't in there
yeah.
personally, but I am in the minority for this. I know everyone wants this.
I mean,
Um,
my
it
thing is just that even if they didn't add it for multiplayer, custom games would be kind of cool to have this. I
Yeah.
mean, or in Terminus Firefight. Imagine defending is the Flood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean that sounds
That'd be
awesome.
interesting.
Gra-
It'd be different.
Granted, like in Halo Wars 1, Halo Wars 2, you can enable this with mods.
Yep.
So I had played as the Flood, and it's awesome. And yeah, I it's a waste of potential. You're right.
Yeah.
If maybe they could also have like a unique playlist where for PvP like those factions are enabled.
Yeah.
You know.
And for those of you who want to play those factions, the mod creator Black and Fan creates those mods. So
Mm-hmm.
check him out. He makes some pretty good ones. So overhauling Solo War. I talked about this earlier. Solo War is in a terrible state where a champion player will place a silver player and the champion will have zero benefit, doesn't matter how long the game is, even though he is on the game. It is actually a detriment for him to play against a silver player or a gold player because of another game could be going on right now. He could have matched with a champion player that just started searching 2 seconds after this match started. That champion player will go against another champion player, win a game, he will win more CSR, and he'll actually pass the other guy in rank. Because the silver player could just sit here and turtle the other guy and hold him up in a game. The reason it holds him up, you're like, oh, he may be able to quit. He can't. If he quits, he loses maybe 10 games worth of CSR. If he lags out, he loses 10 games worth of CSR. If he ends up like the other guy plays Johnson and crashes the game because there is a known bug that crashes the game as Johnson,
Yeah.
they both lose CSR, but the guy who was in champion loses total CSR loss for that. That's ridiculous. That's a completely broken system. Just right there. And then adding on to it, you know, there's the things of a player in Onyx playing against a player in Champion. The Onyx player gets more points than the Champion player loses. And then so it doesn't add up. There's more points being added to the ladder than there's being taken away. Especially with the crashes, that's why you have some players who just don't play in champion and stay in top 50 or top 25 because there's so many crashes you just can't get to their level. And it's a culmination of all of these problems. Like, it could be easily fixed. That's the worst part, is that you could have it to where the max search radius takes longer time to hit. So you have to wait 5 minutes instead of 2 minutes to get into a game with a silver player. It's the absolute last possible thing to happen, to play against a silver player. Give a CSR minimum besides 1.
Yeah. Hey, but now as a counterpoint though, isn't
Yeah.
it true that if you were to get to the next placement, so like you go from diamond to onyx, you can't go back down to diamond, right?
Yes. I will say for competitive, Onyx is your starting point.
Okay.
Onyx 1500 is where it starts. You start seeing the higher level players. I would personally say that Onyx and below, you will see the smallest improvement of players. Onyx is where you understand how the game functions, and you can play it at a speed level that is recommended for the game. With just how the ranking works, because if you win all 10 of your games, you're basically guaranteed Platinum 6, like for placements, for your first time. If you've already played it before, your MMR is already messed up, and then you have to start a new account. So smurfing is rampant in this game. That's why I mentioned this. A champion silver player, I say that it's a champion player playing on a silver account to go against another champion, win, and make that dude bleed on ladder, and that is more productive than him to actually play games on his main account
Yeah.
because he's knocking everyone else down.
It reminds me to when Pyman carried me into champ one season. Because the season got reset and we did 10 placement games, and I think we won 9 of them, and I got champ because he was smurfing, so it
Yeah, it placed
shot
you into it.
it shot me up dramatically each time we played.
Yes.
So I was like, I think I was like champ. I was like really high. I think I was like champ like 171 or something.
That doesn't surprise me, honestly. Now, that point that you made earlier, that once you go up in rank to like the next tier, you cannot go down. That is a horrible issue as for what this game is based on. So this game is based on a behind the hood MMR system. That MMR system is completely independent in what matches you to opponents than your actual shown rank.
Mm-hmm.
So the shown rank is what matters, but the behind the hood one is the one that matches you with people, rewards points, and also, distributes everything else. This is why a player who's an Onyx 1500 could actually have the skill level of a silver player and actually play like a silver player. But because he can't lose any games, he will keep matching with silver players, and he will keep getting the gains of his if he was playing against a silver player,
Yeah.
which forces him to stay at Onyx 1500 forever. He will never
So,
move.
I mean, this is a perfect example. Is this is Ed and I have been, stuck in diamond purgatory in twos
Yes.
for years now, and we'll go up to like diamond 4, diamond 5, and then we'll just get rolled for an afternoon and we go all the way back down to diamond 1.
Yep.
And then we were kind of having the same problem with threes, but you joined us for like 4 or 5 matches, and you shot me up into Onyx real quick, and now
Yeah.
now I'm Onyx 1500 like permanently because we'll get rolled, but I'll never go down.
Yep.
So that like I always tell myself like before I die I want to get Onyx in twos. So maybe like I should just play 10 matches with your Smurf, to shoot me back up in
Yeah,
twos because Ed and
the
I are just stuck in twos.
it is basically the current ranking system they use in the game encourages smurfing in that fact. Especially because if I take my current account, lose 200 games, I will still be an Onyx.
Yeah.
And what that does for the game is that if I win my next game, I will match against a lower ranked player. I will get the gains of playing against that lower ranked player. So like it'll give me the same gains if it's like silver versus silver or gold versus gold. So I will still get max gains. So if I lost 200 games, we'll say it'll put me back in bronze in the background, but I'm actually still an Onyx.
Yeah.
Every single win I have, I will gain full XP. Like not full XP, but full rank. And I will be getting like 30, 40 CSR per match for those first couple games until my MMR gets leveled back out. So it encourages people to quit. It encourages people to not play their games. It's broken and it needs to be overhauled and fixed. I love the option of where the game, like how so StarCraft 2 doesn't allow you to go down in league, but at the same time it will give both players an equal amount of points. So if I win against another gold player as being in Platinum 1, but my MMR is gold, I'll get that. But if I lose in gold, I will still get the same amount of loss.
I I I,
It helps.
I wonder if this system was put in place because either 343 didn't know what they were doing or Creative Assembly wasn't familiar with this system because they make Total War. That's what they're known for. And
Okay.
Halo Wars 2 is completely different than Total War. And
hmm
I've never played a Total War game online, so I wonder if they don't even have this kind of ranking in Total War. So maybe like this was their very first implementation, and it's rough around the edges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of fixes that can be done to it, and it is mostly seen in 1v1s. 2v2s and 3v3s is fine because you have two players evening out the MMR. It does still encourage boosting, but it makes it a lot harder. All three players or all two players have to do it in order
Yeah.
for it to work. So, um, then
Oh.
I only have one more thing left,
Oh.
and
Okay.
then I'll let you go through all your points at least. But my thing is that the ranking system ends at 99.
Mm,
Like, general. They should really increase that.
yeah.
So it's the same thing. I actually have this gripe with StarCraft 2 because StarCraft 2 ends at level 50, and level 50 basically means you can play matchmaking now. So, um, that would be a great thing to add. Just either add no cap and increment it indefinitely, or like make it so high it's almost unobtainable, like 1,000 or something.
There's no reason why it shouldn't. I mean, you don't get
Yeah.
anything from ranking up overall with your
I
profile.
so I have a picture actually. I don't know if I still have it but I glitched into rank 100 at one point on my main.
That's
So
awesome.
when they first added the update to jump from 50 to 99, it told everybody they were at rank 100 when they were doing the update.
Amazing.
Yeah, so for a little bit there, I don't think I still have it anymore, but I was rank 100. So that was kind of cool. Um,
I have a couple of points on this list as well.
okay.
Um, I may have my history wrong, but Age of Empires 2 was pretty dead for a while, and a passionate team of modders proposed some balance changes, and I even think an expansion. No, remember, I may be saying some of this wrong on accident, but from my understanding, Microsoft actually accepted these as these like official balance changes, and even brought on that as an expansion, because it was like 10 years in between expansions for Age of Empires 2.
Hmm.
And now I think that team, Forgotten Empires, is now like they were that mod team, and now they're like doing all these new expansions for the game. And they've kind of really resurrected Age of Empires 2. That's my understanding of it. I could have some parts of that wrong once again, but I hope that Microsoft takes a lesson from that and does that from Halo Wars 2. There is a group of modders that mess with the balance and try to make it as as perfectly balanced as all things should be. But I hope Microsoft accepts that and incorporates that into the game a little bit. And even if they don't, why can they? I've never understood this. Why can they not just hire one of these smaller contract porting studios to fix all this? They surely will have
Yeah.
a smaller rate. I've actually been told the name of the studio that did the work for Halo Wars 1 Definitive Edition. It really was not 343. It was someone else.
Yeah.
Kind of like a ghost team. And
Okay.
yeah, you know how you can have like ghostwriter for books. You can obviously hire a ghost porting studio,
Yes. Yes.
but you'll take the credit. That, from my understanding, that's what happened with Halo Wars 1 Definitive Edition. Why can they not do that with Halo Wars 2 to bring it to Steam and fix these bugs? Their excuse is always that they're too busy with MCC, they're too busy with Infinite. I disagree. I don't think you're too busy to get this contract studio to do this work. If you're too busy,
Yeah.
you could get someone else to do it.
No, you're completely right. And you know, m- they would probably spend about the same amount if they hired in-house people versus if they contracted it out and made profit off of it. So,
Right.
um,
So there's two options I'm presenting here. Is either accept some of the work the community has done, for example, playable flood via mods, or balance changes
mhm.
via mods, or a contract studio, or both, ideally. And this would, I mean, imagine how much traffic it would get if they just say, "Oh, we fixed the way the game crashes all the time. Oh, and by the way, you can play as Flood in custom games now." Wouldn't that be cool?
Imagine if they just dropped that after Infinite started.
Yeah,
Just boom. By the way, Infinite's done. You can play now as Flood. It's like what?
yeah,
So I saw you added a last section while we were talking about the wasted potential.
Ye-
To end it on a good note. I like this.
yeah. I wanted to reiterate my love for this game because this is not only my favorite Halo game. This is my
Yes.
favorite game. Period. Um, I wouldn't do this much work
Yeah.
of Halo
Um.
Wars 2 on YouTube if I didn't love it this much.
So why don't we just go through that list then, really quick, wrap things up.
Yeah,
For the most part, wrap up this podcast and go from there. I think.
yeah. I can run through these fairly quickly. We've been going for extraordinary long amount of time, but um,
Yeah.
so I put a point here of showing legacy on your ranks. So what I mean by this is I don't know why games stopped doing this, but for a few years, games were really interested in showing the legacy of the time you invested in franchises. So, for example, in Halo Reach, you could click on a player's profile and it would tell you like when they started and finished the Halo 3 campaign and like how many grunts they eliminated in ODST Firefight if they had played those games. And I think it was Modern Warfare 3 showed you the prestige levels of like Black Ops 1, COD 4, World at War, and Modern Warfare 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to, like, I wish that you could click on a profile and it would tell you what the rank was in Halo Wars 1, or it would tell you more stats at the end of the game like Halo Wars 1 did. You would click on, in Halo Wars 1, you could look at units destroyed, hit A, and it would tell you how many of each individual unit you destroyed. I would love that information in Halo Wars 2.
That'd be crazy, honestly. And even using the current careers stat that they have in Halo Wars 2,
Yeah.
they could use that. And as well, that would bring, their, I guess, I don't, there's no clarification on if they're getting rid of Halo Wars 1 in December. I've seen you on Twitter just ranting to
Oh
them
my
about
god,
this.
don't get me started
Oh
on
my
that.
gosh. Is it really in there? Because you should update the graphic.
Yeah.
I see that almost monthly from you.
Because
every time they post that.
Yeah, I call them out on it. I gotta go on a tangent here. I'm so sorry to prolong this. There's this infamous graph of this blog post in Waypoint. They say like all 360 Halo games are having end of life for their multiplayer services. So like Halo 3 matchmaking, Halo 4 matchmaking, so on and so forth. And then there's like a graph of affected titles and affected games. Halo Wars 1 is on there, and then there's a green check mark on matchmaking, and the green check mark says like not impacted. So I would tell them, I'm like, okay, is it turning off or not? And it's an easy win. I can get people. It's really it's bait when I put this on Twitter because I can get people on how they respond. So I'll say, is it shutting down or not? They'll say, no, it's not. And then I'll reply, why is it even on that to begin with? Like, why? What can you not just say?
Off the graph.
Yeah, just either take it off the graph or say everything except Halo Wars. And then they'll say, well, they just want to be clear of all the Halo games. Like, well, now you're going to confuse people, and people are going to think it's shutting down. So is it shutting down or not? But I digress. That really sends me over the edge. We'll find out in December. Really, I don't even think 343 knows if it's shutting down or not, because I've asked, and they don't get back to me.
They either give you mixed answers, it's so weird.
The person who posts on Halo support must hate me. And I'm surprised they've not blocked me on Twitter. But that's fine. I can use my Halo Wars Nation account to say the exact same thing, so...
Oh, yeah, you can.
That's neither here nor there.
Goodness.
Hosty, I want an option in Halo Wars 2 to mix and match to make your own leader. Like,
oh, goodness.
Like in custom games, be like, I want to use the voice of Kinsano, and I want my ultimate to be Glacial Storm, and I want to be able to drop napalm missiles and close air support, and I want my hero unit to be the ODST hero from Spearbreaker.
Is this what they wanted Blitz to be?
I guess, but it would just be like, a pick 10, like pick 10 leader points, and then be
that would be so cool.
You would have the base UNSC unit set, Marines, Wolverines, Warthogs, whatever, or Hornets, I should say, and then they'll be like, okay, now pick specialty units, Mantis, Nightingale, or a Frost Raven, a Mastodon, or something. And then, add a few like flavorable leader powers. I think that would be really neat.
You would hate me. Yeah. You would hate me if I did this. I would choose
Oh my god.
I would choose Boundless Siphon, Boundless Fury, Heat of Battle, Raid 1 and 2.
Oh my god.
I would choose Colony's support, combat healing.
Yeah.
I would just choose all of these. Like,
that's amazing.
Just make my units invincible, please. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like we were talking about, too, map editor and Forge should definitely. That would be awesome to see in the game. And then you kind of touched on that mix and matching, like the leader powers.
Yeah.
with like different leaders and customs, playable flood, and then being able to change your own balance and settings like you can with Halo 3 and basically all the other Halo custom games. That'd be
Yeah.
kind of nice.
Yeah, why can I not be like do something like vulture Y ability 1% and then be like marine grenade throw increase 10,000%? Just something ridiculous like that.
Or give a Colossus like plus 200% movement speed.
Yes. Yeah. It's just something like that, or be like, ultimate unit build time 1 second, or
Yes,
just
Scarab battles.
yeah. I would also love like AI battles. Like why could I not just spectate two AIs battling each other?
That's fair. I
I
don't
would
know.
I,
That's
I
really
would
weird to think about, actually.
I would love to make a YouTube series on that. I actually tried. I was like, maybe I could do like a matchmake game with myself with twos, and then and then I would spectate,
Mhm.
and but it would just be too painful. But I would love to see that as well, and I want more skulls that we would turn things on, like the yappening. I would just love to be like, yeah, let's do the yappening in some custom games. Um,
Yeah.
because as we said earlier, the configuration files are still present. They just need to be enabled. Actually, I think Black and Fan has a mod that re-enables this if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't know. I didn't. I'm not too much into the mod community, but I just know things
The
every so often.
the mod
Yeah.
community for both Halo Wars 1 and Halo Wars 2 is amazing. It's very
Yes.
active. It's very small, but it's very active. And they are awesome. And I try to make videos showcasing their stuff whenever I can. I have a playlist for that stuff as well. But yeah, seriously, there's a Discord server for all of them, and with links to downloads and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can do some great stuff with the mods. So shout out to those guys.
Yep. And I'll let you touch on that last point there.
Yeah,
Yep.
I want a I think like I touched on this a little bit prior, but we need a mod studio or some kind of group to continue support for Halo Wars 2. Just I wish that 343 would recognize the hard work that the mod community does, and they're doing this out of love, and that they want the game to be the best that they can be. And I think that's what all of us are doing, right? Like, I'm making videos, you're really involved all around, especially with casting and tournaments. And we have other communities that run tournaments. We have live streamers, and we have people that like to just mess with settings in the game, and people that'll make Mr. Gruntington. He made like kind of uh, a wish list of leaders, and he made like those
Hmm.
fan posters and stuff. We
Yeah.
The community does this because we love the game, and it's awesome. And it goes to show you how great the game is, because we're still as active today as we were 4 years ago when the game launched. So if that doesn't tell you how great this game is and how great this community is, I don't know what will. And I'm so thankful to be a part of this and to have meet so many great friends. I mean, I say this all the time, but I met Ed playing Halo Wars.
Yep.
So
I mean, I met you guys playing Halo Wars. I met Naka. I met all the BTC crew playing Halo Wars. We never knew each other before Halo Wars 2, so that was kind of cool.
yeah,
Um, and I wouldn't even be here playing Halo Wars 2 or playing any Halo game for that matter. I was too deep into Destiny, and then they eventually brought this back. So, and brought back Halo Wars 2, and that was it. I was like, okay, I'm back in.
it's gonna be a sad day whenever they decide to shut down the Halo Wars 1 servers and the Halo Wars 2 servers. But
Yeah.
I think we're hopefully at least years away with Halo Wars 1. We don't know yet. But Halo Wars 2, I think, will thrive for a long period of time. And I'm doubtful that 343 will do any of these proposed changes that the community wants, or even bring it to Steam. But a small part of me has hope,
Yes.
because I love this game so much. And when it does come to Steam, and when they do fix this, the sky's the limit for this game, because it really shines in its gameplay, and it is
Yeah.
I think it's the best exclusive on from the Xbox One generation. It's the best Halo game from that generation. And I think it's the best Halo game and my favorite game of all time. I mean, those are definitely takes, but that's how I feel.
Yeah. Um, I agree. Not completely. I would say I do like Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer more if it had more maps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
that's
for
great.
for the most part, that this is like the game that has brought me most together with the Halo community. I mean, like I never thought I would meet Halo, like regular Halo FPS pros because I play Halo Wars. You know,
Yeah.
and I mean, look where this got Zanny. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
And Luke the
Look at
Notable.
him now. Yeah, Luke the Notable and Zanny Vids were Halo Wars YouTubers. Look where it got them.
Yeah.
It's incredible talent coming out of this game, and it it needs to shine a little bit more. I mean, the only thing with the game is that it just needs support.
Yeah.
So
I, I, I don't want to brag about myself, but Team Respawn currently has like almost 40,000 subscribers at the time of recording this. And that puts Team Respawn as one of the largest Halo content creators in the world. And we're entirely
in
focused
the
on,
list,
yeah, we're
yeah,
on the list and we're entirely on Halo Wars. And we are outpacing the growth of some of the other Halo FPS channels.
yeah,
And so that just goes to show you that people want Halo Wars and people love Halo Wars. And I wish more people would recognize that. And you know, there's really nothing
yeah.
more I can say. If we always say, should you play this game at the end of each episode? The answer is already
Absolutely. You should
absolutely.
know it by now.
You
You
should.
should know the answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially after listening to this. This is our longest podcast. I don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but recording wise, we've been going for 2 hours. No,
almost
whoa,
almost 3.
yeah, almost 3 hours. I just checked that. I don't know how much it's going to be after edits and all, but like, um, it just comes to show how much this game means to the players. And honestly, always relate the Halo Wars 2 community compared to the others like a cult and a family at the same time. It's a family cult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a bunch of players that even though this game is dead, well, in comparison to like Apex or MCC, I've actually not even comparison to MCC because they're kind of close. Um, or like Destiny, they consider this game to be dead, but I don't believe that to
Mm-mm.
begin with because it has a community, has tournaments, has an active matchmaking you can find in about 5 minutes. It's made by a reputable company that should work on it, and it's a game that was it put itself in the news, especially when it lost support. It was in gaming news.
Mm-hmm. Windows
So
Central wrote a piece about it.
yeah, they've wrote several pieces about this game.
Windows Central likes Halo Wars, and I'm glad that they do.
Yes, it makes me happy. So yeah, definitely. If you do not play Halo Wars 2 at all, please, please go try it. Go download it. Um, the game needs new players. Not only new players, it needs you.
Yep.
If you come and play this game, come and join the community, have some fun. I run coaching sessions in TeamRespawn server. I run custom games in there all the time. A bunch of the other guys I coach with and stuff like that run custom games all the time. If you don't like matchmaking, and if you have Game Pass, this is free. The only thing that you have to do is download the game. And if you have certain privileges, you can play this game anywhere
Mm-hmm.
because it's on xCloud.
Yep.
You know,
The complete edition, which includes all DLC, including Awakening of the Nightmare, it now goes on sale for as low as $15.
yes,
So
it just did like last month too, didn't it?
it did, and that is an enablement. It's Xbox Play Anywhere, so you get it on PC and Xbox if you buy it digitally at that price. So it is definitely worth to own. So please experience the love of Halo Wars that we have. This community, I think, speaks for itself. Um, this is going to wrap up our podcast series officially. We'll probably come back with some smaller short episodes for
Yeah.
MCC and Infinite, but those would be purely supplemental. For those of you who are just watching this for the first time, I encourage you to check the playlist for us to listen to us break down any of the other Halo games. But this has certainly been a journey. I'm so glad that we started and ended with Halo Wars.
Yes, that's the nice part about this is going chronologically. We got hit on both spectrums.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
start and finish. We started with our favorite games.
That's right. Well, Hosty, you are a legend for this whole series, so thank you so much for your time.
No, you're a legend.
No, you're breathtaking.
I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, we worked pretty hard on this. There's a lot of research involved, and a lot of our free time was into this. So I'm really proud of the quality of this podcast. Didn't get the views I expected it to, but that's quite all right. I think this is a timeless piece of content that it'll be easy to promote for years to come. So I'm excited for that.
That's the whole point of this. Like, I don't personally care how many views it gets, or obviously the whole goal of this is to give our opinions on each game. To if you want to learn more about Team Respawn or the players that play with Team Respawn, this is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast gives you supplemental information of our opinions.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Of the series. So.
Well, thank you all so much for your time and the love that you have for Halo Wars as well. I mean, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the viewers who show their support for Team Respawn on YouTube. So, this podcast is also possible because of just you watching. So thank you so much. The regular content, of course, will continue all the time, but until otherwise, we will be back in the coming weeks with supplemental stuff for Infinite and MCC. Thank you so much for watching this podcast series, and we'll see you.
I'm going to drop the Hunter's brand, everybody.
That's right. Look out, boys.